The group faces the terrifying sight of a grotesque, spider-like creature, with Yugo bluntly describing it as, "Not a man spider, that's a goblin spider." Melt observes the monster closely, commenting, "It's quite creepy." Marcos, with a composed demeanor, questions Yugo, "Do you see any other Arachnlaw?" Yugo, puzzled, asks, "Arachnlaw? What's that?" Melt explains with precision, "That's the name of those Magai beasts. Its name comes from the spider monster Arachne and Sharp Claw." Yugo reflects, considering the name, and remarks, "That sounds better than spider monster." Observing the grotesque creature, Yugo mutters, "They are goblins after all." Melt adds her observation, "What an unsightly creature. So this is a Magai beast?" Suddenly, Yugo notices something amiss and questions, "Where's Marcos?" The scene transitions to reveal that Marcos has disappeared, leaving the group on edge. Marcos, exuding confidence, announces with grandeur, "I am Marcos Bolg, the eldest son of the Bolg house." Facing the grotesque spider-like monster, Marcos declares his intent to fight. "You repulsive monster, I'll be the one to cut your head off." Meanwhile, the monster reacts with an unsettling noise, clearly startled. Yugo, observing the dramatic scene, shouts in disbelief, "Hey, wait! What's that guy doing?" As Marcos engages the monster to distract it, Yugo swiftly devises a plan. He thinks to himself, "I wanted to act discreetly, but I guess that there's no choice now." He then instructs Melt, "While that guy is distracting the Arachnlaw, we must rescue the passengers without getting caught." Melt enthusiastically responds, Got it!" Yugo takes charge, exclaiming, "Melt, let's hurry and save the trapped passengers." Yugo carefully approaches the restrained passengers, urging them, "Calm down, please don't move." He examines the sticky, tough threads binding them and realizes the difficulty in cutting them. Frustrated, he mutters, "Damn it, I can't cut it." Holding the thread in his hand, he concludes, "It seems that it can only be cut with magic." Reflecting on the situation, Yugo laments, "It'll take too long to rescue all these people with just the two of us." The scene shifts as Marcos is thrown violently against a rock wall by the attacking Magai beast, the Arachnlaw. He groans in pain, shouting, "Gwa!" Yugo notices the situation and yells out in concern, "Marcos!" Undeterred, Marcos grits his teeth and growls, "Damn it, you damn cowardly monster!" as he regains his composure and faces off against the monstrous threat. The scene intensifies as the Arachnlaw, a monstrous hybrid with spider-like features, lets out a feral screech, "Goo gia 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 gia," shaking the air with its terrifying presence. Yugo's face contorts in alarm as he witnesses the intimidating creature and its entourage. Yugo observes the creature's tactics, realizing that monster used his thread to tie Marco's scissors. The Arachnlaw exhibits a cunning intellect. As Melt explains, they've figured out the weakness of Marco's magic tool. Yugo narrows his eyes, delving deeper into the situation. He reflects on what makes Arachnlaws truly terrifying. Not just their physical strength or their sharp threads, but their goblin-like cunning that can identify an opponent's weakness and reliably exploit it. Yugo observes the situation, thinking critically about the group's capacity. He deduces, a group that's able to carry away this many passengers. His thought process leads him to suspect the presence of additional enemies, concluding, aside from those 3 Arachnlaws over there must be... Suddenly, his realization is interrupted by an unexpected sight. Whoa! In a tense moment, Yugo turns to see Melt being grabbed by a spider-like goblin. Her startled cry, "Kaya!" echoes through the cavern. Yugo, visibly alarmed, shouts, "Melt!" as he sees her being restrained by the grotesque creature. The panel focuses on the menacing goblin's sharp features and unsettling demeanor as it communicates with its eerie, guttural noises, hinting at an ominous plan. Melt finds herself in a desperate struggle against a grotesque Magai beast. Its sinister face looms close, letting out a menacing, Goo-gee-gee-gee, as it firmly grabs hold of her. Despite the terrifying situation, Melt's determination burns bright as she fiercely yells, "Hey! Let go of me!" She doesn't waver, even when her strength seems outmatched. Her expression shifts to one of defiance as she calls out the beast's twisted behavior. "You perverted Magai beast!" Gathering all her resolve, she boldly shouts, "I won't let something like you do whatever you want." This moment captures her unyielding spirit, showcasing her unwillingness to succumb even against overwhelming odds. The tension reaches its peak as Yugo decides to act. With a sharp and commanding voice, he shouts, "Hen! Shin!" Transformation. His determination fills the air, cutting through the chaos. The Magai beast reacts with confusion and surprise, letting out a guttural, "Go, gyo, ro, ro," its many eyes wide with bewilderment. The panel erupts with dynamic energy, emphasizing Yugo's decisive move. His transformation begins with an aura of power radiating around him, signaling the start of a clash that promises to turn the tide of the battle. The panel masterfully conveys the build-up to an intense confrontation, blending Yugo's resolve with the Magai beast's mounting sense of dread. With an aura of fierce determination, Yugo activates his transformation, announcing, "Magic power charge complete." As his armor flares to life, energy courses through his body, radiating a powerful glow. His voice rings with resolve. "Here I go!" As he leaps into action, fully armored and ready to take on the battle ahead. Yugo propels himself through the air with precision and speed, descending upon the Arachnlaw minions. The goblin-like creatures react with startled cries, their grotesque faces twisted in panic as Yugo closes the gap. With a decisive strike, Yugo unleashes his energy-infused arm, crushing one enemy with a thunderous blow, exclaiming, "Aura!" The impact reverberates, demonstrating Yugo's unrelenting drive to turn the tide of the fight. The battle crescendos as Yugo, fully armored and empowered, delivers a rapid and decisive attack against the Arachnlaw. His movements are swift, slicing through with unrelenting precision. One of the spider-like creatures reacts with sheer panic, its many eyes widening in terror. The panel focuses on Yugo's sharp and purposeful strike, with Melt shouting in alarm, "Seiya!" The scene captures the urgency and intensity of the fight, showing the Arachnlaw visibly shaken and struggling against Yugo's relentless assault. Yugo channels all his magic power into a single overwhelming technique. He declares, "Blaster Dynamic Slash," as energy erupts around him in a dazzling display of power. The attack is devastating, shattering the enemy's defenses and leaving the Arachnlaw reeling. Yugo, victorious and standing tall, confidently asks, "How's that? It's strong enough to make you cry, right?" His unwavering resolve and superior technique are evident as the Arachnlaw crumbles under the force of his assault, its grotesque form writhing in agony. The scene radiates a triumphant energy, showcasing Yugo's dominance in battle. The aftermath of Yugo's powerful attack leaves everyone stunned. Melt, her eyes wide with awe, notes aloud, He said the technique's name afterward, while still processing the scene. Yugo, now standing confidently, addresses Melt with a focused yet composed expression, saying, "Melt, sorry, but could I leave these guys to you?" Melt, taken aback by his determination, hesitates but responds, "That's fine, but what are you going to do?" Yugo's voice carries unwavering resolve as he answers, "I'll team up with him to defeat the remaining Magai beasts. I'm going to help Marcos." The scene transitions to Yugo's firm interaction with Marcos, who appears battered but still determined. Yugo addresses him with a calm yet commanding tone. "Marcos." Marcos turns, slightly surprised, and Yugo extends a small knife toward him, saying, "Use this." The urgency in his words is clear as he adds, "Use it to free your scissors!" Marcos stares at the knife, visibly processing Yugo's gesture. An internal monologue reveals Marcos's astonishment. "This guy! He beat 2 Arachnlaws by himself!" His shocked expression says it all as he mutters, "What?" while grappling with the reality of Yugo's strength. The tension rises as Marcos, still injured, defiantly shouts at Yugo, "Don't mess with me! Who would ask you for help?" Yugo counters, his voice firm, "Idiot! There's no way you can fight in that state." The exchange highlights Marcos's stubborn pride, refusing to admit his weakened condition. He retorts with sharp words, "Shut it! I don't need your damn help! I can—" But Yugo interrupts with calm determination, urging him, "Marcos, calm down! If we work together, we can take them down!" Before Marcos can fully respond, the Arachlaw seizes the opportunity to strike, landing a devastating blow that sends him flying across the battlefield. Yugo watches in shock as Marcos crashes to the ground, visibly shaken by the overwhelming strength of their opponent. Marcos's resilience is tested, and the dire situation demands immediate cooperation to face the ferocity of their enemy. Marcos is thrown into a rock with a painful impact, letting out a strained, "Gah!" Yugo clenches his fists, angered and determined, muttering, "Marcos! Damn it!" Meanwhile, Melt, with a resolute gaze, yells towards Yugo with urgency, "Yugo, jump!" Her commanding tone signifies the need for quick action in this chaotic battle. Following Melt's lead, the perspective shifts to her poised for attack, her hand raised high as magical energy swirls and forms multiple glowing daggers. The Arachnlaws collectively reel back in alarm, sensing the incoming threat. Melt fiercely commands, "Now eat this!" Her magical assault shines with power, ready to unleash devastating destruction upon the enemy. The tension escalates as Yugo and Melt combine their efforts to take on the remaining Arachnlaw minions. Melt unleashes her attack, scattering the creatures and leaving them exposed. Yugo, filled with determination, seizes the moment to deliver the finishing blow. He charges his energy and roars, "Blaster punch!" The panel captures the intensity of the attack as Yugo's fist, radiating raw power, slams into the monstrous beast with devastating force. The Arachnlaw screeches in pain as the impact reverberates through the battlefield. As the dust settles, only one Arachnlaw remains standing, its massive frame towering amidst the chaos. Melt, observing the scene, shouts, "Just one left!" Yugo, clad in his armor and surrounded by an aura of power, doesn't give the creature a chance to escape. He advances with confidence, warning the beast, "Don't think you can escape." The panel focuses on the final Arachnlaw, its eyes wide with fear as it realizes the inevitable. The climactic showdown is set, with Yugo preparing to bring the battle to its conclusion. Yugo, now fully charged with an electrifying aura, clenches the sword he borrowed from Melt. He announces with unwavering determination, "I'm borrowing this sword, Melt." As the panel crackles with electric energy, Yugo's transformation highlights his resolve. His eyes, glowing with power behind his helmet, lock onto his target. Preparing to strike, he declares, "Here I go!" With a burst of energy, he leaps towards the massive Arachnlaw, ready to deliver a decisive blow. As Yugo descends with electrifying force, he utters with calm intensity, "Didn't I say that I wouldn't let you escape?" The Arachnlaw lets out a feral scream, "Gugya ah!" The air vibrates with Yugo's ultimate attack, "Lightning Blaster!" Sparks and bolts of energy dance around his figure as the attack lands, completely overwhelming the monstrous Arachnlaw. Yugo, standing amidst the fading electric energy, delivers the final words with a quiet authority. "It's over." The chapter sets up the aftermath of a fierce battle, emphasizing the struggle faced by Yugo and his team. Despite Marcos's impulsive actions putting him in harm's way, the group eventually succeeds against the Magai beasts, the Arachnlaws, with the decisive efforts of Blaster and Melt. The scene highlights both the power of teamwork and the importance of strategy in overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. The scene shifts to a moment of relief and reunion as Mina is reunited with her mother, bringing an emotional close to the chaotic events. Melt reflects on the success of their mission, acknowledging the collective effort rather than taking sole credit. Yugo, with his characteristic humility and gratitude, thanks Melt for her contribution, underlining the teamwork that enabled their victory. This page brings a sense of closure and gratitude to the narrative. The page focuses on Yugo and Melt sharing a moment of camaraderie after the battle. Melt, smiling warmly, says, "Hey, we made a good team, right?" as she acknowledges their effective partnership. Yugo replies with a bright expression, "Yeah, I'm glad that you were my partner." Their interaction reflects mutual respect and the bond they've formed during the ordeal. As they share a celebratory fist bump, the atmosphere is filled with relief and accomplishment. However, their conversation is interrupted when a small voice calls out, "Oni-chan, Oni-chan," setting up for an emotional exchange with Mina-chan, the child they rescued. Mina-chan approaches Yugo and Melt with gratitude in her eyes. With a shy yet heartfelt tone, she says, Thank you for saving Mama." Her words resonate with sincerity, and Melt looks at her warmly while calling out, "Mina-chan." Yugo, in turn, expresses humility, responding, "We should be the ones thanking you. It's thanks to Mina-chan who told us about the Magai beasts so we can make our move." He acknowledges her bravery and pivotal role in their success, adding, "It's thanks to you that we were able to save your mom." The page captures the heartwarming aftermath of the rescue, highlighting teamwork, gratitude, and the emotional connection between the heroes and those they saved. The panel opens with Mina's surprised expression, her eyes wide as Yugo's words resonate deeply. He reassures her with a confident smile, exclaiming, "Yeah, of course." The excitement in his voice contrasts with Mina's quiet shock as she processes the idea that she's being recognized as a hero. Her small, uncertain form is illuminated by Yugo's unwavering confidence, making the moment feel like a passing of courage. Yugo then points towards Mina with a radiant grin, exclaiming, "Well done, Mina-chan!" His gesture is both playful and sincere, carrying an energy that only Yugo can bring. Melt stands in the background, observing this moment with a subtle smile. Her quiet presence emphasizes her approval of Yugo's warmth and leadership, though she remains reserved, as if admiring from afar. In the final frame, Mina's emotions start to bloom. She seems to shyly accept the praise, her surprise melting into a soft smile. The panel's brightness reflects her growing confidence, her role in the events now validated as truly heroic. It's a heartfelt exchange that encapsulates her growth and Yugo's ability to inspire those around him. The scene shifts to Melt, her composed demeanor returning after the chaos. With a cheerful yet genuine tone, she suggests to Yugo, "How about we keep taking quests together like this?" Her words are casual, but her sincerity is evident. She glances slightly to the side, almost bashfully, as if unsure of how Yugo will respond. Yugo, ever the optimist, listens with interest, though he's momentarily surprised by her openness. Melt follows up, expressing her confidence in Yugo. "I trust Yugo, and together we can do anything." Her eyes shine with determination, and for a brief moment, it's clear that the bond forged in battle has transformed into true camaraderie. The final panel zooms out to show the duo standing against the backdrop of a setting sun. With radiant smiles, they reaffirm their partnership. "Looking forward to working with you, Melt," Yugo says, extending his hand. Melt mirrors his enthusiasm, a mix of excitement and bashfulness in her expression as she replies, "Looking forward to working with you, Yugo." The warmth of the sun mirrors the warmth of their bond, marking this as both a conclusion and a fresh beginning for their adventures. Marcos, still recovering from the earlier battle, fixes his gaze on Yuugo. A mixture of astonishment and respect flashes across his face as he mutters, "Yugo Clay!" It's clear that Marcos has been deeply impacted by Yugo's display of strength during the fight. However, instead of humbling himself, his competitive nature shines through. As one of Marcos's attendants approaches, concerned, they begin to say, "Marcos-sama, let's treat your inju," but are immediately cut off as Marcos sharply shifts the focus to Yugo. "To think that you had that kind of power." Marcos speaks to himself, his admiration tinged with an undertone of frustration at his own limitations. Marcos's pride takes center stage. He brushes aside any talk of his injuries with a commanding, "No need!" His voice is firm, and his resolve is crystal clear. Turning to his subordinate, he declares, "More importantly, from tomorrow on, I want our training to be harder." His burning determination is palpable, the weight of his earlier defeat fueling his ambition. Startled, his subordinate stutters, Yes!" Marcos doesn't even glance back as he walks away, his focus laser-sharp on a single thought: outdoing Yugo. The panel closes with a dramatic close-up of Marcos, his expression a blend of intensity and confidence. "Just you wait, Yugo Clay. Next time, I will show you my true power." His words hang heavy in the air, a promise to himself and his rival. Behind him, Yugo and Melt share a quiet conversation, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing in Marcos's heart. The mysterious figure, cloaked in shadow, observes the bustling streets from a hidden perch. A faint whisper escapes their lips. This is unexpected. The focus shifts to Marcos, walking away, his expression lighter. The cloaked figure muses ominously. "Huh? The darkness in Marcos' heart has vanished?" The revelation unsettles the figure, who now has to rethink their plans. Their voice hardens with resolve as they conclude, "It seems like I need to find another target." And the air grows heavy with foreboding as they fade into the shadows. The scene changes abruptly to an unexpected system message. Melt's Ape's scenario route has disappeared. It is no longer possible to recruit her as an ally. A shocked voice cries out, No way! Melt's route is gone!" The character in question, Zenon Ash, the Reincarnator, stares at the screen in disbelief. Panic rises in his voice as he questions, why did her route disappear? Why? He recalls her destined role, thinking, Melt was supposed to be a character that would definitely join the main character. The final panel freezes on Zenon's determined face, setting the stage for what may be an intense unraveling of the story. The scene grows tense as Zenon Ash, the Reincarnator, reflects deeply on his actions. He clutches his arm, his face filled with regret and self-blame. In his inner turmoil, he wonders aloud, could it be? It's my fault? The panel emphasizes his overwhelming guilt as he questions, is it because I took Claire Tan from Yuugo earlier than I should have? Shadows of other reincarnators loom in the background of his mind, a representation of their potential judgment. What will the other reincarnators think about Melt's route disappearing? He frets. The atmosphere becomes even darker as he switches from guilt to frustration. Throwing himself onto a bed, he yells out, Shit! My Melt! Damn it! My Melt! The panel underscores his descent into denial, his thoughts turning bitter. Whatever, it's not my fault, he convinces himself, blaming a bug in the game and the problem with the world for the current situation. This moment captures the fragile ego and instability of a man trying to reconcile his mistakes with his self-image, offering a glimpse into his psyche. The next day, the mood lightens with a shift to Yugo and his companions, enjoying a moment of reprieve after the battle. Phi, seated with a bright smile, looks up to Yugo with admiration, exclaiming, You beat Magai beasts with one attack? That's amazing, Nissan! Her wide-eyed wonder highlights her genuine awe. Yugo, ever humble, attributes his success to her. It's thanks to Phi who adjusted Blaster for me. Phi giggles, sipping her drink, while acknowledging Yugo's physical prowess, saying, Punching and kicking suits me much more than fighting with a sword. She tilts her head slightly, a soft smile forming as she reflects. Even so, Nissan has been doing amazing things since he lost his memory. The panel subtly conveys her pride in Yugo, a mix of familial warmth and respect. This scene shifts away from the intensity of battle, focusing on the bonds between the characters and their teamwork. The panel shows Fi reflecting deeply on his older brother Yugo's transformation. He recalls hearing stories about how Yugo, in the past, slacked off on his training, relying entirely on Gallandil's powers. His apparent carelessness had always been a source of worry. But now, after witnessing his incredible strength and focus during battle, Fi is struck by the stark contrast. He wonders if Yugo had been hiding his true potential all along, or if he had intentionally held back in the past, even speculating that he might have thrown some fights on purpose. The sight of Yugo standing tall in his armor challenges everything she thought she knew about him, hinting at a much deeper side to her brother that she never understood before. This panel dives into Yugo's troubled history. As the eldest son of a distinguished family, Yugo had grown up surrounded by constant scrutiny and betrayal, from enemies both within his household and outside. When he was disowned, many expected him to be devastated, but instead he seemed indifferent, as though a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Fi interprets this as a sign that deep down, Yugo had always wanted to escape the suffocating expectations of his lineage. Now, with his memories gone, he seems freer than ever, and Fi realizes that this loss of memory might have allowed him to rediscover his true self, a part of him that had been suppressed for years. The panel hints at Yugo's newfound sense of purpose, driven not by external pressures but by his own will, painting him as a man reclaiming his destiny. Yugo's younger sibling gazes warmly, reflecting on Yugo's progress. Their inner monologue reveals heartfelt pride. In any case, Nii-san is now enjoying his life and showing remarkable achievements. As his brother, that makes me happy. The scene captures their admiration, as they hope. I hope that he can keep up like this. The innocence and determination in their expression underline their belief that Yugo is destined to be recognized as a hero. Their tiny hands clutch a cup, the moment serene yet filled with genuine admiration. Melt approaches Yugo, visibly flustered and a bit disheveled. She attempts to mask her distress with a forced, awkward smile. Yugo notices her unease and gently remarks, "Ah, Melt, you don't look so good. Is something wrong?" The concern in his voice is palpable. Melt hesitates for a moment before sheepishly requesting, "Sorry, can we talk?" Her nervous demeanor and her slightly trembling hand brushing through her hair highlight that whatever is bothering her is serious. Responding to Yuugo's concern, she admits with a weak laugh, "Yeah, I'm a bit troubled." In this scene, Melt, visibly exhausted, initiates a conversation with a tired tone, saying, "And it's not exactly unrelated to you. Can we talk for a bit?" Her expression suggests that she's carrying a burden that she's ready to share, but finds difficult to bring up. Yugo, slightly startled and curious, responds, "To me? What is it? What do you mean?" His reaction reflects both concern and confusion about Melt's sudden approach. Before the conversation can proceed, another character abruptly interrupts with a commanding presence, exclaiming, "Found you, Melt Epi, and Yugo Clay is with you. That's perfect." Their sudden appearance heightens the tension in the room. Yugo, caught off guard and increasingly alarmed by the turn of events, blurts out in disbelief, "What?" This moment sets the tone for what seems to be an unavoidable confrontation or revelation. The tension escalates in this scene as the atmosphere shifts to confrontation. The character who had interrupted earlier demands, "Yugo Clay, release Melt here and now!" Their tone is sharp and authoritative, clearly intent on escalating the situation. Yugo, visibly annoyed and taken aback by the abrupt accusation, raises his voice. "Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden?" His exasperation reflects his unwillingness to be dragged into an unnecessary fight. The other character continues with an accusatory sneer pointing at Yugo. Yugo, trying to keep his composure, mutters in frustration, I'd rather not be dragged into a fight out of nowhere, you know? This line highlights his unwillingness to engage in petty conflicts, though it's clear the situation is spiraling out of his control. Their words drip with disdain as they accuse him. To think trash like you truly exists, deceiving an unsuspecting transfer student and making her your own. Their facial expression and tone emphasize their belief that Yuugo is in the wrong. The panel closes with palpable tension, leaving readers eager to see how Yugo will respond to this baseless attack and whether Melt will step in to clarify the misunderstanding. The tension in the room escalates as Yuugo stands defensively, trying to clear his name. "Wait! It's a misunderstanding! I didn't do anything!" he protests, his voice laced with frustration. But Wilhelm isn't having any of it. His commanding voice echoes through the space, cutting through Yuugo's explanation. "Silence! I don't care about what you say," he declares, his tone sharp and unwavering. Melt, sensing the rising hostility, steps in, her voice softer yet firm. "Calm down, Wilhelm-kun," she pleads, trying to defuse the situation. But Wilhelm's anger remains unshaken, his fiery resolve clear in his expression. "This rush Wilhelm won't forgive your heinous acts," he exclaims, pointing accusingly, his words carrying an undeniable weight. Determined to stand her ground, Melt confronts Wilhelm, her voice firm and unwavering. "I'm not being deceived by Yugo," she declares, stepping forward with conviction. "I was the one who invited him to do a quest. It's all a misunderstanding." But Wilhelm doesn't back down. His eyes narrow as he interrupts her. "You don't need to say anything, Melt," he insists, his tone protective but condescending. "You might not know, but this man is dangerous." Wilhelm's next words strike a nerve, their harshness undeniable. "He's not someone a girl like you should be involved with," he states, his piercing gaze fixed on Yugo. Melt's expression tightens, her fists clenching as her resolve grows. The air is thick with tension, the confrontation far from over. Yugo tries to diffuse the escalating tension in the room. He admits with a tinge of guilt, "I've heard that I did some terrible things in the past, and I regret it." His sincerity is evident, but before he can elaborate further, he is interrupted. Another character dismisses his words with hostility, retorting, "Do you think I can believe what you say?" The distrust is palpable, their piercing glare a sharp contrast to Yugo's earnest attempt at redemption. Feeling cornered, Yugo raises his hands in defense, firmly declaring, "But I'm not trying to deceive Melt or anything like that." The desperation in his voice reveals how deeply he wants to clear the misunderstanding. But it's clear the room is not on his side. The accusations against Yugo grow louder, with the instigator rallying the group. "There's no need to lend an ear to what this trash says," they shout, their voice dripping with disdain. Turning to the crowd, they demand validation. "Everyone thinks so too, right?" The bystanders murmur in agreement, their whispers blending into a wave of collective condemnation. "It's that Yugo, you know," one remarks, their words heavy with implied meaning. Another reluctantly agrees, "Yeah." With a sinister smile creeping across their face, the instigator takes a step closer to Yugo, taunting him with a mocking tone. "I'll say it one more time, Yugo Clay." The tension in the air is electric, the clash of intentions about to reach its boiling point. The panel kicks off with Yugo standing firm against Wilhelm's rage. Wilhelm declares fiercely, "Don't ever go near her ever again." Yugo responds in a calm yet defiant tone. "It's true that I might be trash to you," acknowledging his past but standing his ground. The tension thickens as Melt, bold and unwavering, steps into the fray. With an assertive stance, she proclaims, "That's right, I decide who my friends are." Her fiery declaration leaves Wilhelm stunned for a moment, his expression hardening as he processes her words. His question lingers in the air, "But who are you to meddle with Melt's relationships?" Wilhelm turns his focus back to Melt, his voice filled with an unshakable resolve. Melt, you may think that I'm meddling with you, but one day you will understand that I'm doing the right thing. His words resonate with a sense of righteousness, as if trying to justify his actions. Yugo, meanwhile, watches the confrontation with a mix of confusion and growing frustration. Wilhelm's sharp words, "Someone that I've just recently met like you has no right to say anything about it," seem to slice through the room, adding weight to the already intense atmosphere. But before Yugo can fully comprehend, Wilhelm's hand shoots out, gripping Yugo by the collar with surprising force. Yugo's startled reaction, "Huh!" is all he can muster as Wilhelm's intentions become clear. The tension escalates, leaving the moment ripe for an explosive next step. Yugo stumbles back with a sharp cry, "Ah!" as a powerful force impacts his chest, sending him collapsing to the ground. Nearby, Phi's face twists in shock and panic. "Nissan!" she shouts, her voice trembling with fear as she runs toward him. The antagonist's stern expression softens into faint confusion. "What are you doing?" he asks, his voice cold but measured. "It's dangerous to suddenly—" His words trail off as something catches his attention, and he tilts his head slightly, murmuring, Wilhelm sneers, his gaze cold and dismissive as he addresses Phi. "Nissan, are you this trash's brother?" The insult drips from his tone, cutting sharply through the tense atmosphere. Phi steps forward, his small frame unwavering against the hostility. His voice rises with fierce pride as she counters, "Nissan is no trash. He's a brother that I'm proud of." His determination only seems to grow as he glares at the bullies, pointing at them with righteous anger. "You guys who gang up to bully one person are the real trash?" he exclaims, his words like a defiant battle cry. Wilhelm's face darkens, his smirk twisting into a scowl. "What did you say?" he snaps, clearly not expecting such boldness. But Phi doesn't back down. Tears well up in his eyes, but his resolve remains unshaken. "Nissan is an amazing person!" he shouts, his voice filled with passion. "He recently defeated Magai beasts and saved a lot of people." He clenches his fists, the fire in his eyes burning brighter than ever. "Nissan is not someone like you can call trash." Wilhelm, his patience snapping, snarls in fury. "This brat!" he shouts, his voice echoing through the tense room. His eyes narrow and his fist clenches with unrestrained anger as he steps forward, his intent clear. With venom dripping from his words, he roars at Phi. "Don't act like you know anything. You're just a trash's little brother." The insult slices through the air as Wilhelm's gaze pierces through Phi like a dagger. Phi's expression shifts from defiance to a moment of shock, his wide eyes reflecting the harsh sting of Wilhelm's words. But his resolve doesn't waver entirely. There's still a flicker of courage behind his startled look, ready to push back against the injustice. Wilhelm, fueled by anger, confronts Phi and yells, "Don't talk as if you know everything!" The intensity of his rage is palpable as his hand moves forward. Phi, startled but standing strong, braces himself against the verbal onslaught. Determined, his expression remains defiant even in the face of Wilhelm's fury. Just as Wilhelm's aggression seems to peak, Yugo steps in with precision and grabs Wilhelm's fist mid-air, saying calmly yet firmly, "Catch." Wilhelm, caught off guard, can only stammer, "What?" as Yugo's composed demeanor contrasts sharply with the tension of the moment. Yugo maintains his grip, his eyes meeting Wilhelm's, and he declares in a calm but resolute tone, "I apologize for my brother's rudeness, but let me say this as his older brother." Yugo Clay steps forward with a resolute look. His words are calm but cutting as he declares, "You can say whatever you want about me. I'll even accept being called trash." His sharp gaze shifts, and his voice hardens. "But if you dare to put your hands on Phi, that's a different matter." He clenches his fist, his demeanor radiating a protective aura. I will never forgive anyone who makes him cry. Remember that. The tension in the air thickens as Wilhelm growls under his breath, his frustration evident. Wilhelm throws down the gauntlet, his face twisted with anger. "Fight me, Yugo Clay!" he demands. Yugo, unfazed by the challenge, contemplates briefly before agreeing. "A duel." "Fine. On one condition," he responds firmly, stepping into the confrontation. His terms leave no room for negotiation. "If I win, you'll never lay a hand on my brother and friend again," Yugo states, his presence commanding and protective as Phi and Melt watch anxiously from behind him. As Yugo, Melt, Phi, and Rush leave the scene, Wilhelm clenches his teeth, his pride deeply wounded. His voice trembles with rage as he mutters, "Yugo Clay, I won't forgive you for this humiliation." The focus shifts to the duel arena, a grand coliseum buzzing with anticipation. The spectators chant, their voices merging into a raucous roar. "You can do it, Rush! Beat Yugo to a pulp!" The atmosphere is electrifying, each shout amplifying the tension. Wilhelm, now standing before the crowd, shifts from his fury to a confident, almost performative grin. "Thank you," he exclaims, gesturing as if the entire audience supports him. "I promise," he continues, his voice dripping with theatrical charisma. "With everyone's support, I'll definitely defeat Yugo." From the balcony above, Yugo watches silently, with Melt and Phi by his side. Melt's face tightens in a mix of unease and skepticism. "With everyone's support, huh?" Yugo echoes internally, his expression unreadable but clearly unimpressed. Meanwhile, Phi peeks curiously over the railing, clutching tightly to the fabric of his jacket as if holding on to hope. Yugo, feeling isolated, reflects on the overwhelming support for his opponent. His side is noticeably empty, a stark contrast to the bustling crowd favoring the other. The weight of being in an away match presses on him. Meanwhile, Melt, guilt-stricken, apologizes earnestly to Yugo and Phi for dragging them into her troubles. Phi, however, reassures her with a mature yet comforting response. "Don't worry about it. It's those people's fault for not listening to you in the first place." Yugo, sensing Melt's distress, gently places a hand on her shoulder. He acknowledges the imbalance in supporters but shifts his focus to the two people rooting for him, Phi and Melt. Despite the odds, he exudes quiet determination, finding strength in their belief. Melt reflects on Yugo's resolve, her thoughts echoing his unwavering spirit. Phi, too, finds solace and inspiration in his brother's confidence, silently cheering him on. Together, they begin to solidify their bond of trust. Phi, with a determined smile, encourages Yugo, saying, "I believe that Nissan will win this time, too." Yugo looks surprised but smiles warmly at Phi's confidence. Phi continues, "We'll be cheering for you. We believe in you, Yugo." Yugo, touched, pats Phi's head affectionately and responds, "Yeah, you're really the best little brother ever, Phi." He then straightens up, prepares himself, and says, "Well, it's time. I'm going now." As he walks towards the duel, his confidence shines. The atmosphere heats up as the duel is officially announced. "Right now, Rush Wilhelm and Yugo Clay will engage in a duel." The crowd murmurs and laughs, clearly siding with Rush. Rush smirks confidently and declares, "No problem. For everyone's sake, I will defeat you." Meanwhile, Yugo, standing firm and unfazed, replies with a sharp grin, "I'm ready to start any time. How about you?" Their intense rivalry sets the stage for an electrifying duel. The panel opens with the announcer declaring the rules. Well, with both sides pledging to do a fair fight, let the duel begin. Yugo, his expression fierce and determined, shouts, "Henshin!" activating his transformation. Rush, with equal intensity, bellows, "Let's go, Iwindrum!" The page crackles with energy as the atmosphere ignites, both combatants preparing for a fierce confrontation. The next panel plunges straight into the action. Rush lunges forward, shouting, "Ha!" With a dynamic leap, his posture aggressive and unyielding. Yugo, now fully armored, counters swiftly, his defensive stance showing precision and readiness. The combat begins with a sharp clash of skill and determination, the tension palpable as the duel heats up. Yugo, in his armored transformation, barely evades the onslaught, his figure agile as he leaps to avoid the deadly arcs. His inner thoughts race. He sent slashing attacks from a distance like a kamitachi. The realization dawns on him that this is no ordinary battle. Wilhelm's weapon has reach and devastating power, forcing Yugo to stay on high alert. A sinister grin spreads across Wilhelm's face as he revels in the chaos he's caused. It seems that it's a magic tool that converts magic power into blades and launches them, he declares with manic enthusiasm, raising his weapon to unleash another round of devastation. The panels capture his raw glee, a sharp contrast to Yugo's focused resolve. But Yugo isn't about to be outdone. His stance shifts slightly and his visor glints as he readies himself. His body language says it all. If Wilhelm wants to play this game, Yugo is prepared to fight back, no matter how overwhelming the odds. The tension crackles in the air as the stage is set for their next clash. The intense duel continues, and Yugo is completely in the zone. Ha! He darts around with agility, skillfully evading Windrum's wide, powerful slashes. His movements are quick and calculated as if he's dancing between the attacks. The armored Yugo analyzes the attack pattern, realizing the secret. The slashes follow the direction of the sword swing. His confidence grows as he mentally prepares his counter. Dodging those wide attacks is not that hard. His sharp observation gives him the edge he needs to turn the tide of this duel. Yugo, still fully armored, strategizes mid-battle. His plan is clear. I don't need any big attacks. If I can close the distance and get inside his sword's range, it'll be my win. He calculates every move with precision, visualizing his victory. With unwavering determination, he shifts into action. All I need to do is get close enough and... Just as he prepares to execute his next move, something shocking happens. A sudden strike catches him off guard. What? The unexpected blow staggers him, raising the stakes of the duel to a whole new level. Rush Wilhelm confidently presses Yugo with a barrage of unpredictable attacks. Yugo, seemingly caught off guard, recoils from a surprise blow, grimacing in pain. His armor glints under the pressure, his voice gasping out, "I got attacked from another direction!" Wilhelm stands firm, a sly grin spreading across his face as he scoffs at Yugo's confusion. "Fwahaha! Did you really think I'd allow you to get close to me so easily?" Yugo, kneeling slightly, steadies himself. His sharp eyes notice something peculiar. "Huh? What's this?" he mutters, his voice layered with suspicion. With a dramatic flourish, Wilhelm steps forward, revealing an unexpected twist. "I never said that I only had one magic tool." In a flash, an exact replica of himself appears beside him, smirking. "My magic tools are these two, Windrum and Avatar Ring." Wilhelm, oozing confidence, narrows his eyes at Yugo. His taunting voice cuts through the tense air. "You, who only use one outdated magic tool, are no match for me." His laughter echoes through the battleground, the dramatic reveal setting the stage for a more intense confrontation. Yugo is caught off guard. "There are two Rushes?" His mind races to comprehend the sight before him. Rush's smug grin stretches wide, mocking, "Yugo Clay, I will completely crush you, using everything I've got." Yugo's focus sharpens, his inner monologue filled with dread. "Ooh, this isn't good." Laughter erupts from Rush. "Ha ha 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 ha! How does it feel to be overwhelmed? Learn the difference in strength between you and me." He moves with ruthless precision, sending Yugo reeling. Yugo struggles, stumbling back. "Ugh! Damn it!" The relentless attacks leave him gasping. "Isn't 5 against 1 too unfair?" he mutters in exasperation. Clutching his side, he quips under his breath, "I'm starting to understand how those villain monsters must feel." The scene explodes into chaos as Yugo gets overwhelmed by a vicious series of attacks. The crowd cheers wildly in the background, feeding off the carnage with twisted excitement. Yugo staggers backward, visibly shaken but not out of the fight yet. Fi and Melt gasp in horror, gripping the railing as they shout, "Yugo!" Rush stands tall with a smirk, towering over the seated Yugo. His voice drips with mockery as he sneers, "What's wrong? Out of breath already. Shall I give you some time to rest?" Yugo surprises everyone by cheerfully responding, "Really? Just what I wanted." Fi cheers with unexpected delight. "Yay!" While Melt looks at him incredulously, asking, "Are you really going to take a break?" Meanwhile, Yugo sits cross-legged on the ground, as if he's truly taking up the offer. The tension continues to build as Yugo reflects on his options. The panel is divided between Yugo's strategic thinking and the overwhelming disadvantage he's facing. His armored form, slightly hunched, hints at the physical and mental toll this fight is taking. Above him, playful but critical thought bubbles depict him brainstorming ideas. His inner dialogue is laced with doubt, realizing that even landing a single hit would leave him vulnerable to simultaneous counterattacks from the clones. Rush Wilhelm, confident and taunting, commands the scene from a distance. His arrogant smirk contrasts with Yugo's calculated demeanor. Yugo contemplates the unfairness of facing an enemy with overwhelming numbers, likening himself to a Sentai monster being outnumbered by a team of heroes. The thought, "If only I had a powerful and sharp single-strike special move," underscores his desire for an edge, his desperation palpable. His strategizing face is calm, but his narrowed eyes reflect a growing determination. The dialogue box dominates, reading, "Are you done with your useless struggle? I'll crush you." Wilhelm's towering shadow looms over Yugo, emphasizing the power imbalance. The focus shifts to Yugo's epiphany. As Wilhelm continues his taunts, Yugo's mind suddenly recalls a key inspiration. A spotlight-like emphasis on Yugo's thought process gives the panel an almost cinematic feel. His inner monologue connects the dots. "Damn it! If only I had a long-range move like Melt's purple sword." The words purple, Sentai, and powerful and sharp single strike dominate the panels as key elements of his sudden realization. The shift in Yugo's stance catches Wilhelm off guard. His previously composed expression turns to curiosity, his brows furrowing slightly as he mutters, "What's with that stance?" The panel ends with Yugo's armored figure glowing slightly, hinting at a newfound resolve. This is the turning point, where strategy and inspiration might just bridge the gap in strength. This page is all about Yugo's transformation, not just in strategy, but in spirit. The scene focuses entirely on his armored form, exuding confidence and power as he enters a determined fighting stance. His glowing eyes are the centerpiece, radiating an intense resolve that feels almost tangible. The top panels highlight Yugo's internal focus as he channels the iron will, the unyielding determination of a true warrior. His movements mimic martial precision, drawing inspiration from beast martial arts, the fighting style of Sentai warriors. This is Yugo embracing a newfound approach, a blend of inspiration and creativity born from the heat of battle. In the final panel, his pose solidifies with fists clenched and arms braced for action. The glow from his armor seems to pulse, reflecting the energy shift. His words, "From here on, it's going to be exciting," carry a defiant tone, signaling to Wilhelm that the tides are about to turn. The anticipation in this moment is electric, leaving both characters and readers ready for what comes next. The chapter begins with a bold proclamation. "It's going to be exciting, you say?" Yugo's stance exudes confidence as he faces off against his opponent, his body language brimming with resolve. Rush, on the other hand, watches with a sharp gaze, intrigued but skeptical. His remark, "What's with that stance?" underscores the tension, questioning Yugo's approach while preparing for what comes next. Rush throws a sharp observation. "You look just like a cat, exactly like a cat on its guard." Yugo, slightly amused, replies with an air of self-awareness, "A cat? I was going for a wolf, though." His playful retort injects humor into the intense moment, but it's clear that he's strategizing. Rush, however, dismisses the banter. "Well, whatever. Let's continue." He grips his weapon tightly, declaring, "I'll crush them and end this fight right away." The buildup intensifies as both prepare for a decisive clash. Yugo stands firm, a picture of unshaken resolve despite the taunting declaration from his opponent. "No matter what you do, your defeat is certain." The air between them crackles with tension, as Yugo calmly replies, "Well, let's see how that goes," his unwavering tone showing no trace of fear. His opponent, fueled by arrogance and a thirst for dominance, swings his blade down with ferocious force, shouting, "Fall to my blade!" The moment feels almost frozen in time as Yugo's body reacts, a blur of motion, effortlessly sidestepping the deadly strike with calculated precision. Yugo seizes the opportunity, his counterattack swift and precise, a masterclass in timing and skill. His opponent, overconfident and unprepared, is caught completely off guard as Yugo's powerful strike lands true. The force of the impact sends the foe reeling, his body jolting violently as the realization of Yugo's strength dawns upon him. Shock paints his face as he stumbles backward, the overwhelming intensity of the battle now tipping in Yugo's favor. The moment is electric, every move charged with the weight of their clashing wills. The page shows Rush analyzing Yugo's sudden decision to charge at one of his clones head-on. He initially questions Yugo's strategy, thinking it might be reckless, but his overconfidence leads him to command all of his clones to attack simultaneously. Rush is convinced that overwhelming Yugo with numbers will end this duel decisively, reflecting his cocky demeanor. However, Yugo's agility shines as he propels himself toward his target with remarkable speed, creating a dynamic panel where he charges directly into the group. His actions carry a bold, almost feral energy, which sets up the impact of his next move. In the heat of the clash, Yugo demonstrates ingenuity and adaptability. As Rush's clones attempt to close in, Yugo unleashes a powerful knee strike, shattering the clone he targeted with precision. His calm yet witty response, "I couldn't reach you with my hands or feet, so I used my knees," oozes confidence, turning the tables on Rush. Rush, on the other hand, is visibly shaken. His expression reflects both shock and disbelief as he registers Yugo's speed and sharp instincts. The flow of the battle is shifting dramatically, showing that Yugo's strength lies not only in power, but also in quick thinking and creativity. Yugo's strategy takes center stage, his internal monologue offering a glimpse into his calculated approach. "By enhancing my speed with magic power, I can approach with minimal movement, deliver a sharp strike, and retreat." His fighting style, perfectly balanced between speed and power, ensures that he never gets cornered. His opponent, Rush, watches in growing confusion and frustration. "What the hell is that? I've never seen someone fight like that. Which style of martial arts is that?" he exclaims, his disbelief palpable. But Yugo, undeterred and confident, steps forward with a declaration that embodies his individuality and self-made strength. "This is Ore Ryu, my style." The bold proclamation reverberates across the battlefield, cementing Yugo's resolve to fight on his own terms. Rush's growing unease is evident, but the battle is far from over. The tension erupts into action as Rush shouts in anger, "Don't get carried away!" His desperation is clear as he tries to reassert control, commanding his clones in a chaotic attempt to regain the upper hand. But Yugo's sharp instincts and observation come into play. Their coordination is broken, he thinks, his confidence bolstered by the enemy's disarray. Seizing the moment, Yugo lets out a battle cry, "Let's do it again!" His energy surges as he propels himself into the fray, ready to exploit the cracks in Rush's formation. The panels burst with dynamic motion, showing Yugo's dominance as he takes control of the rhythm of the fight, proving that his style is not just unique but unstoppable. The tension escalates as Yugo charges forward with relentless determination, delivering a heavy blow to Rush that sends him reeling. Despite his attempts to counter, Rush falters, caught off guard by Yugo's incredible strength and precision. "What the hell? What is this guy?" he yells, disbelief clouding his previously arrogant demeanor. But Yugo doesn't let up. His voice rings out with unshaken resolve. "Come on! We are not done yet." His strikes are precise and unyielding, a testament to his skill and the sheer force of his will. The visual of heavy armor clashing with Rush's desperate defenses highlights the physical intensity of the battle, as the power balance clearly shifts in Yugo's favor. As the clash continues, Rush questions the impossible. "How can you move like that in that heavy armor? Just what the hell are you?" His voice trembles with both frustration and fear, unable to comprehend Yugo's agility. Yugo, unfazed, delivers his response with unwavering confidence. "Even if you ask me, I've never thought of it as heavy. In fact, I feel lighter with it on." The panels transition into a reflective moment as Yugo's words reveal his secret weapon, belief. The greatest ability Yugo possesses is the power of imagination. This inner monologue underscores the source of his strength, his ability to transcend limitations through sheer willpower and creative strategy. The sequence concludes with Yugo taking a dynamic combat stance, embodying a warrior who refuses to be confined by conventional rules or doubts, ready to end this battle with overwhelming force. The narration explores the source of Yugo's incredible abilities, describing him as one of the strongest individuals in this world. It's not just his physical prowess, but also his mindset, the influence of the Sunday morning hero trope he idolizes, fueling his imagination and amplifying his combat potential. The panel reveals the duality within him, the talented Yugo Clay and the kind-hearted Kurei Yugo. Together, they form a unique combination, allowing him to channel his admiration for henshin heroes into real-world power. His childlike belief becomes the foundation of his superhuman feats whenever he transforms, embodying the idea that henshin heroes have the ultimate power. Yugo now confronts Rush directly, isolating him for a decisive one-on-one duel. "It's just you and me now," Yugo declares confidently, standing firm amidst the battlefield's chaos. The tension rises as he challenges Rush. "Let's settle this one-on-one." Rush, consumed by anger and frustration, lashes out with a furious response. "Bastard! Don't be so full of yourself!" His words seethe with rage as he vows to kill Yugo with his own hands. Meanwhile, Yugo, resolute and determined, makes it clear that this will be the end, saying, "Sorry, Rush, but I will end this here." Yugo announces with fervor, "Or Ryu finishing move!" His armor gleams with an imposing aura, emphasizing the power behind his technique. In one fluid and explosive motion, he delivers the Kukuken, crimson fist, an attack radiating pure force, directly at Rush. The punch connects with a devastating impact, sending Rush recoiling and screaming, "Ooh-ah!" The sheer strength of Yugo's strike is palpable, leaving no room for doubt about his martial supremacy. Before the dust settles, Yugo isn't done. With resolute determination, he declares, "One more." The crowd watches in awe as he transitions seamlessly into another signature move, Shukuken, rising crimson fist. The upward strike propels Rush into the air, amplifying the humiliation and damage inflicted. Observers gasp in disbelief, the power of Yugo's moves taking everyone by surprise. Rush, battered and overwhelmed, stumbles to the ground. As he kneels in defeat, the realization hits him hard. It can't be. How could this scum be so strong? The narrative encapsulates the poetic justice of the moment as Yuugo's unwavering spirit triumphs over his arrogant opponent. Yugo, his fist raised high, delivers the iconic line, "Thanks for the compliment," before unleashing the devastating final punch. Yugo deals the finishing blow with a firm, confident expression. The battered and defeated Rush can only groan in pain, unable to fight back. The resounding knockout signals the undeniable victory, with Yuugo standing triumphant, exuding pure heroism. The aftermath shows a stark shift in the atmosphere. The crowd of onlookers, once cheering for Rush, now falls silent, their excitement replaced with hesitation. Yugo steps forward, addressing them boldly. "What now? Is there anyone else who wants to fight me?" His calm confidence shakes the crowd, leaving them speechless. Among the spectators, Yugo reflects on the fickle nature of people, thinking, they were all cheering for him, but the moment he lost, they became like this. Yugo's strong presence and unwavering stance demand respect as he firmly asks, "Then you won't be messing with us anymore, right? Also, take care of Rush." The final moments emphasize Yugo's dominance and responsibility, with his brother calling out, "Yugo, Nissan," as the scene concludes with admiration and relief. After the intense battle, the scene shifts to a moment of relief and joy. Fi and Melt rush toward Yugo, their faces lighting up with excitement. Fi exclaims, "Nissan, you're really strong after all." Melt echoes the sentiment, his admiration evident. Fi's bubbly energy radiates as she cheers. "Thank goodness." Yugo smiles softly, acknowledging their support with humility. "I was able to win because you two cheered me on." "Thank you," Yugo says, his sincerity melting the tension left in the air. His words resonate with warmth, emphasizing the importance of his bond with his friend and younger brother. Melt's curious nature takes over as he excitedly asks, "But anyway, what were those moves? It was like, whoosh, pow, bam." His animated gestures add a playful touch, shifting the atmosphere to one of light-hearted camaraderie. The celebration is cut short as another figure enters the frame, seething with rage. The newcomer points an accusatory finger at Yuugo, shouting, "You damn coward! You cheated, didn't you?" His words are laced with bitterness, unable to accept Yuugo's victory. Melt and Fi step back slightly, their earlier excitement fading. Yugo remains calm, his demeanor unshaken. The intruder continues, his frustrations spilling over. "That bastard Yugo shouldn't be able to win against Rush. There is absolutely no way he is this strong." His disbelief underscores his inability to fathom Yugo's growth and skill. Yugo, however, maintains his composure, tilting his head slightly with a questioning look. "Hey, could you tell me who you are before you start yelling at me?" His response is casual yet sharp, showcasing his confidence while subtly disarming his opponent's aggression. The contrast between Yugo's composed attitude and the intruder's chaotic rage highlights his growth as a character, solidifying his role as a true hero. As the scene unfolds, tension bubbles as Zenon steps forward, glaring at Yugo with an intense and dramatic accusation. Did you forget who I am?" His voice echoes with indignation, his posture tense with unresolved frustration. He continues, "My name is Zenon Ash. Don't tell me that you've forgotten me." The panel captures Zenon's frustration, his pride clearly wounded by Yuugo's apparent blank reaction. Yugo, on the other hand, remains unfazed, his expression leaning more toward apologetic than hostile. "Even if you tell me that, I'm sorry, but I lost my memory." His calm response adds an air of mystery and intrigue to the moment. Zenon, however, presses on, his tone almost desperate. "At least remember who your opponent was back then, the duel that triggered it." Fi and Melt watch quietly from the sidelines. Melt, breaking the tension with her usual candor, turns to Zenon. "Hey, Zenon-kun?" she asks, her tone and expression undercutting the dramatic build-up, bringing a touch of levity to the charged atmosphere. The tone shifts as Melt's question lands like a subtle punch, her innocent curiosity catching Zenon off guard. Her gaze sharpens as she asks, "What do you mean Yugo cheated in the duel?" Melt's words, straightforward yet piercing, seem to throw Zenon further off balance. Zenon stammers in response, his earlier bravado fading. He mutters, clearly struggling to regain his composure. His dramatic persona cracks further as he awkwardly apologizes. "I'm sorry you had to see me lose my cool, Melt-chan." The panel highlights his flustered state, emphasizing the shift in power dynamics as Melt, unflinching, questions his assumptions with a quiet yet undeniable strength. Her presence adds a surprising depth to the interaction, as her calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Zenon's earlier theatrics. The scene wraps up with Melt's unwavering focus on clarity and truth, leaving Zenon grappling with his fragmented pride. The tension in the room thickens as Zenon, with an air of superiority, steps forward to address the crowd. His voice is steady, but laced with condescension, perfectly calculated to sway those watching. "But think about it," he begins, his words cutting through the murmurs. "Isn't the outcome of this battle clearly weird?" His question hangs in the air like a spark waiting to ignite doubt. He doesn't stop there, pressing his advantage. "I know because I fought and defeated Yugo before," he declares, his smug confidence palpable. "It's too unnatural for him to have become this strong in such a short period since our fight." The conviction in his tone causes the crowd to falter, their cheers for Yugo turning into whispers of uncertainty. Zenon's smirk widens as he sees the effect of his words. There's no way someone like him, who doesn't even have a proper magic tool, could win the duel. His pointed finger and sharp tone amplify his accusation. It's obvious that he somehow cheated. The room buzzes with murmurs of agreement, the onlookers swayed by Zenon's charisma and the doubt he's planted. The tide of opinion begins to shift, the crowd's trust in Yugo faltering as Zenon asserts his dominance with words alone. Yugo stands firm, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm of accusations swirling around him. The weight of the crowd's doubt seems insignificant to him as he addresses Zenon with unwavering confidence. "I didn't cheat," he states simply, his tone steady and resolute. "I just fought normally and won, that's all." His words cut through the chaos like a blade, reclaiming some of the authority that Zenon tried to seize. But Zenon, unable to accept Yugo's calm response, snaps. "Don't lie!" he shouts, his frustration boiling over. His eyes narrow with a mix of rage and disbelief, his voice trembling as he continues, "There's no way you are this strong." The panel captures his clenched fists and desperate glare, a sharp contrast to Yugo's composed and confident stance. The room is split. Some spectators remain doubtful of Yugo's victory, swayed by Zenon's accusations, while others silently root for Yugo, impressed by his unshakable resolve. The battle may be over, but the conflict between the two is far from settled, and the crowd's divided loyalty only heightens the tension. As tensions rise, Melt steps forward, her voice steady yet urgent. "Hold on. I understand why you have doubts about Yugo's strength, but you're mistaken," she declares, standing firmly in Yugo's defense. Her words carry conviction, a fierce determination to protect her friend from baseless accusations. She recalls their shared battles, her eyes reflecting vivid memories. "He was just as strong when we fought the Magai beasts together." The truth of her experiences fuels her resolve, even as the crowd's whispers grow louder. Zenon, however, isn't swayed. With a condescending smirk, he addresses Melt, his tone dripping with mock concern. "Melt-chan, you're being fooled," he says, his words cutting through her impassioned defense. He reaches out with a gesture that feels calculated, as if pulling the strings of manipulation. "He must have surely planned out that very same battle in order to deceive you." The room feels charged, the stakes in this argument mounting with every exchange. "No, Yugo would never—" Melt's protest is fierce, but Zenon cuts her off, his voice growing colder. He would do whatever it takes to achieve his goal. He is a genuine scum who is rotten to the core. The intensity of his words reverberates through the room, sowing doubt among the onlookers. His accusations grow more calculated, weaving a narrative of manipulation and deceit. Isn't a Magai beast rampage on a train too convenient? He questions, his tone dripping with malice. Zenon paints a picture of a Yugo who used his noble status to scheme and deceive, his words gaining traction with the murmuring crowd. There's no mistake, he continues. He used his connections as nobility to scheme such farce. The onlookers begin to nod, their uncertainty transforming into belief as they mutter among themselves. Even Yugo himself appears momentarily stunned by the overwhelming hostility. The crowd's accusations culminate in a crescendo, one bystander shouting, "It's obvious that he set the whole thing up." Melt's wide eyes reflect both disbelief and defiance, her trust in Yugo unwavering despite the growing hostility surrounding them. The tension is palpable as Yugo's allies and enemies alike question his intentions and his honor. Zenon leans forward, exuding confidence, as he offers Melt a seemingly protective hand. His words, coated with a false sense of chivalry, resonate across the scene. "Melt-chan, you shouldn't be around people like him." He reassures her, "I will protect you from any threat, so stay by my side." Zenon's polished smile, full of charisma, masks his true intentions, the narrative framing it as the privilege afforded only to a main character. Melt, however, remains silent, her expression unreadable as Zenon assumes his charm will win her over. But Melt's reaction catches Zenon off guard. Her calm yet pointed words break the tension. Do you even know what you're saying?" Her piercing gaze cuts through Zenon's facade, and with a moment of honest disbelief, she bluntly adds, "You're being really creepy now." Zenon's self-assured demeanor falters, his eyes wide in shock as he processes her rejection. His confident narrative shatters, leaving him speechless and exposed, while Melt's integrity shines as she challenges his manipulative approach. Zenon's inner turmoil surfaces as his confident facade begins to crack. "Something's not right. This isn't how it's supposed to happen," he thinks, his composure slipping into panic. Melt, standing firm, rebuffs his accusations, her voice rising with conviction. "Yugo set up the whole incident? I'm being deceived?" she questions, struggling to process his claims. But her resolve solidifies as she confronts Zenon head-on. "That day you weren't even there. You have no right to say anything." Her words cut deep, filled with anger and a sense of betrayal. She defends Yugo and all who were involved in the incident, her gaze unwavering. "You're disrespecting all the people who were involved in that incident," she declares, her righteous fury unmistakable. Zenon, overwhelmed, stumbles backward. "What happened to the protagonist's correction?" he mutters, grappling with the reality unfolding before him. His confidence, built on a sense of narrative control, is shattering before his eyes. Melt's words strike with unrelenting force, leaving Zenon reeling. "I thought you were an amazing person since everyone calls you a hero," she starts, her tone shifting to disappointment. But then her voice sharpens. "But just like Yugo, you're the complete opposite of what the rumors say about you." Her final words land like a hammer. "You're the worst!" Zenon's world collapses as he processes her rejection. "Impossible. This can't be happening," he whispers in disbelief. His internal monologue grows desperate. "I, the protagonist, am being rejected by the heroine." In the background, Yugo stands tall, a silent witness to Zenon's downfall. The once proud hero clutches his chest, the weight of his crumbling delusions pressing down. His trembling hand and defeated posture paint the picture of a man broken by the reality he can no longer control. The tension between Zenon and Yugo reaches a boiling point as Zenon, filled with desperation and a distorted sense of justice, demands, "Yugo Clay! Fight me!" His internal dialogue reveals his twisted logic. If I, as the protagonist, defeat the villain Yugo in a duel, everything will fall into place. His words carry both delusion and determination as he stakes his pride on another battle. Meanwhile, Melt, seeing Yugo's hesitation, steps forward. "Yugo, face this way," she orders, her tone firm and unyielding. Yugo hesitates for a moment, concerned by Melt's intensity. "Eh? But Melt," he starts to question, only for her to cut him off with a sharp command. "Just do it." The panel captures her fiery resolve, leaving both Yugo and the reader wondering what she's about to do next. In a moment of utter surprise, Melt closes the distance between her and Yugo and kisses him with striking determination. The scene is rendered in stunning detail, with their expressions filled with shock and raw emotion. Yugo, caught completely off guard, freezes as Melt's bold move takes everyone by surprise. In the climactic opener of the new chapter, Yugo is stunned as Melt abruptly pulls him into an unexpected kiss. The surrounding crowd is left in a mix of shock and curiosity, murmurs echoing through the tense atmosphere. Yugo, caught off guard, can only mutter a confused, "Huh?" as the weight of the moment sinks in. Meanwhile, Zenon, in complete disbelief, watches the scene unfold with wide eyes and clenched fists. This has to be a bad dream," he exclaims internally, his expression a mix of frustration and humiliation. His world begins to crumble as the realization dawns that the narrative he believed he controlled is slipping out of his grasp. Melt, her voice steady but filled with emotion, delivers a stern warning. "Don't you ever say that you'll duel for me again?" Her words, layered with resolve, strike a chord in the silence that follows, further solidifying her autonomy in the situation. The tension between the three characters is palpable, setting the stage for a dramatic escalation. Melt steps forward confidently, her voice firm as she declares, "As you can see, I'm with Yugo of my own free will." Her words leave no room for doubt, and her piercing gaze silences the murmurs from the crowd. Melt's composure contrasts sharply with the tension in the atmosphere as she adds, "What you're doing is just a bother, so stop being a nuisance." Without hesitation, she grabs Yugo's hand, her determination unshaken, and commands, "Let's go, Yugo." The whispers among the onlookers grow louder as they process Melt's bold stance. Melt's sharp tone continues as she shifts her focus to Phi, who stands frozen, unsure of what to do. "You too, Phi-kun! Come on!" she says, her voice less stern but still firm enough to snap him out of his daze. Phi stammers, yes, before rushing to catch up, his face red with embarrassment. Meanwhile, Yugo follows Melt's lead, seemingly caught off guard by her assertiveness. The panel shows the trio walking away together, leaving the stunned crowd and Zenon behind as whispers of confusion and surprise ripple through the group. The panel captures the emotional fallout for Zenon as he sits on a bench, head down, grappling with despair. His internal monologue betrays his disbelief, repeating, "This can't be, and how could this happen?" The thick shadows and fragmented paneling emphasize his spiraling emotions. The once proud and composed character is now a shadow of his former self, overwhelmed by his sense of loss and failure. This scene shifts to Yugo, Melt, and Phi, walking together in a visibly awkward yet endearing atmosphere. Melt nervously apologizes to Yugo for her impulsive actions, saying, "I'm sorry for doing something like that so suddenly." Yugo, equally flustered, tries to wave it off, insisting he should be the one apologizing. Their exchange is riddled with bashful glances, evident in their flushed expressions. Phi silently observes, his curiosity piqued, but his wide-eyed innocence brings levity to the scene. The background of the school adds a sense of normalcy, contrasting the intensity of their emotions. The scene shifts to Melt, her teasing demeanor shining through as she smirks at Yugo. With a playful tilt of her head, she asks why he's apologizing, her tone soft, yet laced with curiosity. Yugo's reaction is anything but composed. Overwhelmed, he stumbles on his words, his mind replaying the kiss. But to a girl, kissing is... He trails off, his face flushed a deep crimson. Fee's voice breaks through the comedic tension, urging his brother to calm down. It's an endearing moment that highlights the contrasting energies between the characters, with Yugo spiraling into embarrassment and Melt watching with an amused twinkle in her eye. Melt's teasing takes a sharper turn as her expression softens. Her voice is hesitant, yet pointed as she asks, "Did you dislike being kissed? By someone like me?" The weight of her question lingers, making Yugo freeze. The vulnerability in her gaze throws him off balance, but he quickly erupts in denial, waving his hands frantically. No, of course not," he exclaims, his voice cracking slightly. His hurried explanation about trying to defuse the situation with Melt's earlier actions only adds to the chaos of emotion swirling between them. Melt's puzzled expression closes the moment, leaving an air of unresolved tension between the two. Yugo, visibly flustered, blurts out, "Huh?" Melt, unfazed, adds, "Then it's fine. I didn't dislike it either," leaving Yugo stunned and speechless, as if trying to process her casual yet impactful words. Melt, with a playful grin and a wink, cheerfully ends the conversation. "Anyway, this conversation ends here. Yup, that's it." Her energetic declaration takes everyone by surprise. In the bottom panels, Yugo's thoughts take over. But did I really kiss Melt? His inner turmoil is clear, but he quickly reflects on the moment, thinking, I'm honestly thankful for Melt's limitless cheerfulness in moments like this, appreciating her ability to lighten the mood despite the awkwardness. Fa, ever the energetic little brother, chimes in with his admiration. "Nissan, you actually won against that many opponents. You're amazing!" His youthful excitement lights up the moment as he looks at Yuugo with awe. "You won't lose even if you're alone," he declares confidently, but Yugo's gentle response reminds him otherwise. "That's not true, Fa," Yugo says, his tone laced with humility. He recalls the battle, explaining, "At that time, it was an away game, and I was outnumbered. But you know, I wasn't fighting alone." The flashback panels vividly illustrate Yugo standing side by side with his allies, showcasing the teamwork and trust that led to his victory. Yugo speaks with conviction as he addresses Fa, his tone warm yet firm. "I had both you and Melt," he says, reminding Fa of their shared battles. He reflects on their previous encounters, emphasizing how teamwork made all the difference. "Even in the fight with the Magai beasts, we were able to keep everyone safe because Melt was fighting alongside me." Yugo's words carry a sense of gratitude as he continues. "Moreover, you were the one who gave me Blaster, right?" He kneels slightly to meet Fa's eye level, affirming, "I always fight together with someone. I've never fought alone." Fa looks visibly moved, his expression showing a newfound understanding. Yugo smiles at Fa and says with determination, "That's right. You're fighting with me too, with our trust in each other." He quotes his personal philosophy, the Hero Code Part 5, "Be someone who can bond and fight together with his friends." The words land with weight, making Fa pause in admiration. Yugo playfully ruffles Fa's hair, his demeanor light yet sincere. "Remember that. It'll be on the test," he jokes, eliciting a shy but happy reaction from Fa. The panel closes with Yugo's promise. "I'll tell you as you start to understand what being a hero means," teasingly brushing off Fa's concern about not knowing the first 4 parts of the code yet. The moment between them highlights their growing bond, solidifying Yuugo's role as both a mentor and a trusted elder brother. The panel opens with Fa gazing at Yugo, his face full of playful determination. "You're so mean, Nissan," he teases, clearly not taking no for an answer. Yugo maintains his usual calm and slightly exasperated demeanor, while Melt, standing to the side, looks intrigued. She jumps into the conversation with a curious, "I'm also curious about those hero codes," showcasing his admiration and eagerness to learn from Yugo. The lower half of the page brings Melt's mischievous personality to the forefront as she playfully proposes, "Teach me, Yugo. I'll even give you another kiss." Her teasing tone is matched with a confident wink, exuding her carefree charm. Yugo's reaction, though subtle, hints at his discomfort with Melt's boldness. Phi's expression, on the other hand, shows his surprise, likely at Melt's audacity. This scene perfectly captures Melt's playful energy and Yugo's patient tolerance of her antics. In the next panel, Phi unexpectedly mirrors Melt's energy, raising his hand and dramatically declaring, "Teach me too. I'll kiss you too if you want." His exaggerated enthusiasm, coupled with sparkling eyes, adds a humorous twist to the moment, making him look both innocent and comically overzealous. Meanwhile, Melt isn't backing down. She leans in toward Yugo, a teasing grin lighting up her face as she quips, "Is that part of the hero code too? Tell me about that part too." Her competitive spirit and light-hearted teasing are on full display as she challenges Yugo to explain himself. The bottom panel captures the chaos of the trio's dynamic as both Melt and Phi cling to Yugo's arms, each vying for his attention in their own over-the-top way. Yugo, visibly exhausted and finally fed up, exclaims, "Hey, don't get carried away, you two." His frustrated expression contrasts hilariously with Melt and Phi's carefree smiles, creating a light-hearted, comedic conclusion to the page. This moment perfectly encapsulates their dynamic. Yugo as the reluctant yet responsible figure caught between the bubbly Melt and the ever-curious Phi. The scene shifts to Zenon, his frustration and disbelief boiling over as he exclaims, "I'm about to get angry!" His laughter is manic, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the setting. The panel captures his descent into denial and rage as he clenches his teeth, muttering, Why? How is this happening?" His confusion and anger are palpable as he grabs a nearby chair and hurls it across the room, the loud crash echoing his inner turmoil. The quiet aftermath only serves to emphasize his helplessness, as the reality of his unraveling narrative looms over him. Zenon's inner thoughts spiral as he fixates on the situation, desperately questioning, "The protagonist's charisma worked on Claire and the others, so why doesn't it work on Melt?" His obsession grows, and his resolve sharpens as he rationalizes, "Party members that can become allies, especially the heroines, are the ones I absolutely must obtain." His words reveal a disturbing, possessive mindset, treating people as mere tools for his ambitions. The panel conveys his frustration and desperation with sharp, angular lines and tense expressions. Suddenly, a knock at the door interrupts his thoughts, and his expression quickly shifts, masking his turmoil with a strained calmness. The abrupt intrusion sets the stage for the next confrontation, leaving the audience on edge. The scene introduces Rush entering Zenon's room hesitantly, with a nervous, "Excuse me?" His appearance, marred by bandages and bruises, immediately captures Zenon's attention. Zenon's gaze sharpens as he acknowledges Rush, his tone carrying a mix of feigned concern and underlying irritation. "Ah, Rush-kun, how are your injuries?" The tension is palpable as Rush awkwardly replies, his body language betraying his unease. Zenon, maintaining his composed facade, remarks with subtle sarcasm, "You were beaten up quite badly," while Rush tries to maintain his composure, nodding in affirmation. This interaction sets a foreboding tone, as Zenon's true intentions remain obscured behind his calm demeanor, leaving an air of uncertainty. Rush, clearly distressed, stammers his response, Yes, I'm fine," but his expression reveals the emotional toll of recent events. He clenches his fist tightly, a mix of frustration and shame bubbling to the surface as he admits, "But I ended up humiliating myself in front of everyone." Zenon, seizing the opportunity, manipulates the narrative to fuel Rush's insecurities. With a calculated tone, he reassures, "Don't worry about it. You lost because Yugo cheated. Everyone else knows that too." Rush, desperate for solace, clings to Zenon's words, his anger intensifying as he processes the supposed betrayal. His voice rises with indignation. "I lost because he set me up!" Zenon, his eyes glinting with satisfaction, affirms Rush's statement with a firm, "Exactly!" The panel closes with Rush's realization dawning. "I see. So that's what happened." The manipulation successfully plants seeds of distrust and determination in Rush, hinting at the brewing conflict. Zenon continues his manipulative tactics as he comforts Rush, his demeanor a mix of feigned empathy and cold calculation. He starts by acknowledging Rush's impressive capabilities, saying, "Well, that is true. Rush has good stats for the start of the game, at least." Zenon's analysis reflects his strategic mindset, breaking down Rush's strengths and weaknesses. He notes how Rush's stats rival those of the protagonist early on, but points out that, by mid-game, other characters surpass him. Describing Rush as a crutch character, Zenon highlights his temporary utility and emphasizes his dependency on early-game advantages. The background imagery underlines Zenon's detached and analytical approach, portraying Rush as merely a piece in his larger plan. Zenon shifts his tone to one of false encouragement, leaning closer to Rush and placing a hand on his shoulder. "Rush, have confidence in yourself," he urges with a deceptively supportive smile. He dismisses Yugo's victory as a product of cowardly tactics, attempting to restore Rush's confidence by framing the loss as undeserved. "But you'd win in a fair fight," Zenon assures, his words laced with manipulative undertones to further fuel Rush's resentment. Rush's face lights up with a sense of regained pride, his fist clenched as he enthusiastically responds, "Yeah, that's right." Zenon's internal monologue reveals his reliance on the protagonist's charisma, a tool he believes will solidify Rush's allegiance. The panel concludes ominously, with Zenon reaffirming his conviction, "There's no way you'd lose to scum like Yugo." His gaze is sharp, his ambition burning, as the seeds of his next plan begin to take root. Zenon stands with an aura of confidence, his sly smile hinting at the schemes brewing in his mind. He declares with determination, "First, we need to expose Yugo's trick." His words are sharp, carrying the weight of his grudge and intent to take control of the situation. Pointing decisively, he continues, "Let's beat that scum together and bring peace back to the Academy." The dramatic lighting and his commanding tone make his proposition sound grandiose, though his motivations remain entirely self-serving. Turning to Rush, Zenon emphasizes, "I want you to keep an eye on him for that reason," his tone growing conspiratorial. Rush, showing visible hesitation, nods with a reluctant, "Understood," as the tension in the room builds. Their handshake signifies a temporary alliance, their shared goals aligning them, at least for now. The panel perfectly captures the unsteady dynamic of their partnership, underpinned by manipulation and misplaced trust. Zenon's confidence soars as he thinks to himself, "See, that's how it's done." His inner monologue reveals his mastery over the characters around him. "I know the personalities of this game's characters quite well." The calculated manipulation is apparent in his expression as he observes Rush. A notification appears, indicating, "Rush Wilhelm has been added to your party," solidifying Rush's alignment with Zenon. The system also notes Rush's favorability toward Zenon increasing, reaching the level of trusted. Zenon smirks, his thoughts dripping with arrogance as he muses, "It's so simple. Just say something that makes them happy, and they easily start liking me." His overconfidence in his tactics is palpable as he prepares for the next step in his plan. The scene closes with Zenon's piercing gaze and chilling declaration, Yugo, Clay, I'll definitely reveal your secret, leaving no doubt that the rivalry is far from over. His ominous words set the stage for further conflict, with his manipulative nature leading the charge. The scene closes with Zenon's piercing gaze and chilling declaration, Yugo, Clay, I'll definitely reveal your secret, leaving no doubt that the rivalry is far from over. His ominous words set the stage for further conflict, with his manipulative nature leading the charge. The scene grows ominous as a devastated structure looms in the background, setting a foreboding tone. A chilling narration reveals the eventual consequences of two unexpected allies teaming up, hinting at a catastrophic incident to come. Amidst the rubble, Yugo stands resolute, his sharp gaze locked onto an imposing figure emerging from the shadows. The monstrous entity, brimming with dark energy, addresses Yugo with a twisted satisfaction. I've been waiting for you, Yugo, Clay. Its grotesque form is detailed with jagged armor and an unsettling aura, emphasizing its menacing intent. The creature proclaims its sinister goal. Once I kill you, I'll be fully reborn. The tension peaks as Yugo's expression hardens, signaling his readiness for the battle ahead. Yugo's resolve shines through as he stands tall amidst the ruins. With a calm yet determined voice, he declares to the looming threat, I will defeat you. The panel transitions dramatically as Yugo prepares to transform, channeling his energy into a battle-ready pose. His thoughts are focused and unwavering. To protect that which is precious to me. His voice rings out with authority. Henshin! The moment is electric, a prelude to the fierce clash that is about to unfold. The narrative concludes with a foreboding message. The curtain rises to a battle against a new Magai beast, leaving readers eager for the explosive confrontation that awaits. Yugo, still recovering from his intense duel with Rush, reflects on his hard-earned victory. Though it was a grueling fight, he triumphed thanks to his strategic thinking and the power of Blaster. However, the panel shifts to an ominous tone as the narration hints at impending unrest. What should have been a calm aftermath quickly foreshadows further turmoil as the days pass uneasily. Yugo, Melt, and Phi sit outdoors enjoying what seems to be a peaceful morning when their tranquility is interrupted. From the shadows, a booming voice calls out, Fight me, Yugo Clay! Emerging dramatically from the trees is Marcos Bolgsan, dressed sharply, exuding an air of challenge and arrogance. His imposing figure and confident posture create an immediate tension in the scene. Yugo, startled and clearly unenthusiastic, responds dryly, Hey, you again, so early in the morning. His nonchalant demeanor contrasts with Marcos's fiery energy, while Melt and Phi, huddled beside Yugo, exchange wide-eyed glances. The juxtaposition of Yugo's calm and the intensity of the challenger highlights the dynamic of this unexpected encounter. Phi steps forward first, her eyes sharp with determination, cutting through the tension as she addresses Marcos directly. Don't you think your current actions are going back against your word? She demands. Her voice is strong and unwavering, reminding Marcos of his past loss. You lost the duel with Nia-san and made a promise to not come near us again, she continues, her words piercing through Marcos's pride. Marcos remains silent for a moment, his expression hard to read, before finally responding with a strained smile. I know, he admits reluctantly, his hand brushing back his hair in an attempt to maintain his composure. However, under the current circumstances, this is something I cannot ignore. His tone carries a mix of urgency and justification, hinting at something deeper motivating his actions. Yugo, standing behind Phi, watches the interaction with curiosity and confusion. Did something happen? He asks, his concern evident. Marcos's response comes swift and pointed as he shifts his gaze back toward Yugo. The other day when you fought Rush Wilhelm? Marcos hesitates, his voice lowering slightly. I heard you used some unfair means. Phi instantly reacts, her expression tightening as she clenches her fists. That's just a false rumor they started, she exclaims passionately, stepping even closer to Marcos to defend her brother's honor. Nissan did not cheat at all. Her voice rings out with a conviction that leaves no room for argument. Yugo looks on, clearly taken aback by Phi's intensity. Marcos raises a hand slightly, his gaze softening for a moment as he addresses Phi. I am aware of that, he admits calmly, his acknowledgement catching everyone off guard. Eh? Phi stutters, her fiery resolve momentarily giving way to confusion. Marcos continues, his tone shifting to one of respect. I've experienced his true strength firsthand. The likes of Rush wouldn't stand a chance against him. His words, though complimenting Yugo, carry a hint of reluctant acknowledgement, revealing a begrudging respect. Melt observes from the sidelines, her expression a mix of curiosity and amusement. Despite everything, he seems to acknowledge Yugo, right? She muses, her thoughts reflecting the unfolding dynamic. Marcos Balg expresses his frustration, exclaiming, The problem is that for some reason, I'm also being implicated in those rumors that are spreading. His face is a mix of anger and disbelief as he continues. Due to the spread of the rumors that you set up the incident in that tunnel, now I'm being seen as your accomplice as well. He dramatically throws up his hands, shouting, How did that happen? There's no way that I, a proud member of the Bolg family, would ever assist in something like that. His outrage grows. Are they really that stupid? Yugo, observing the exaggerated reaction, comments to himself with a wry smile. This guy seems to be quite hated too. Out loud, he replies nonchalantly, I see. Sorry about that. His light-hearted apology contrasts with Marcos's fervent indignation. Marcos, still reeling from the damage to his reputation, clenches his fist and declares, If it were only me, I wouldn't mind, but this concerns the honor of the Bolg house. With determination in his eyes, he points at Yugo and shouts, So fight me again, Yugo Clay! By defeating you, I shall clear my family's name! Yugo, unbothered by Marcos's theatrics, simply responds, What? He then adds with a slightly exasperated look, Don't you think that's kind of meaningless? Marcos looks taken aback as Yugo continues with a blunt tone. To be frank, no matter how seriously we fight, it'll just look like a staged match, with my despicable noble buddy. Yugo's dry comment leaves Marcos stunned and comically flustered, his exaggerated reaction bringing a humorous close to the exchange. The atmosphere is tense as Yugo's blunt response cuts through the moment. I'm not your buddy, he exclaims, his words dripping with irritation. Melt and Phi, standing nearby, exchange glances, both stifling their laughter at the fiery interaction. Melt quietly notes, He didn't deny the part about being hated, her voice barely concealing her amusement. Yugo, ever composed, shifts gears, his tone steady as he begins, Therefore, signaling the start of a new approach. He decisively lays out his stance, addressing Marcos. Anyway, that's why I'm not going to duel with you. His reasoning is measured, balancing respect with practicality. I can understand you not being able to ignore your and your family's reputation being badly affected, he concedes, his words showcasing an unexpected understanding. But as a noble myself, he adds, the weight of his own status reinforcing his perspective. Yugo takes control of the conversation, his voice calm yet firm. I have a proposal for you, he announces, the tension in the air shifting slightly. Marcos raises an eyebrow, intrigued but wary. Yugo continues. I'm going to take a quest with Phi and Melt. Would you like to come with us? His offer is direct, leaving no room for ambiguity. Marcos, clearly caught off guard, struggles to maintain his composure. What did you say? He mutters, his voice laced with skepticism. Yugo doesn't let up, issuing a clear challenge. Let's have a contest with this quest, he proposes, his confidence unwavering. Let's see who can get better results, he adds, throwing down the gauntlet. Marcos remains silent for a moment, the weight of the challenge hanging in the air as both characters brace themselves for the competition ahead. Yugo explains further, "If you manage to achieve better results than me, I will accept your challenge to a duel." His tone remains even as he adds, "And if you lose, I won't give you a penalty or anything. Of course, the rewards will be split equally. You just have to work a little." Yugo, with a self-assured smirk, looks directly at Marcos, proposing his terms. "How about it? It's a pretty good offer, right?" His words carry an air of casual confidence, clearly aimed at pushing the proud noble into action. Marcos, visibly conflicted, listens carefully, his brows furrowing slightly as he considers the proposition. Marcos tilts his head, letting the offer sink in before breaking into a sharp grin. "Humph, I see," he says confidently. His noble pride shines through as he straightens up, accepting the challenge with a determined glint in his eye. "So you want me to display my true power during this quest, right?" Yugo nods subtly, keeping his cool demeanor intact. Finally, Marcos exclaims with vigor, "Fine, Yugo Clay. I'll gladly accept your challenge." In the bottom panels, Marcos's excitement boils over, his competitive spirit fully ignited. "No matter the quest, I'll show you that I can get better results than you," he shouts with unrestrained enthusiasm. Pointing dramatically, he declares, "It's on!" The intensity of his words contrasts with Yuugo's composed expression, signaling the beginning of their new contest. The mood shifts to a lighter scene, with Yugo, Phi, and Melt casually sitting together in the courtyard. The gentle background of the school creates a calm atmosphere. Marcos breaks the silence, looking curious as he starts to ask, "So?" His wide-eyed expression reflects his eagerness to hear Yugo's plan. Yugo, mid-thought, looks contemplative, but before he can respond, the scene erupts into chaos. The panel cuts to Marcos, storming into a lively classroom. His face is a mixture of disbelief and frustration as he yells, "What is the meaning of this?" The room is a whirlwind of noise, children running and laughing, completely overtaking the space. Marcos, clearly overwhelmed, stands at the center of the chaos, struggling to process the scene in front of him. His noble composure falters, his usual sense of pride clashing hilariously with the unexpected pandemonium. The contrast between his serious demeanor and the wild setting highlights the comedic absurdity of the situation. Yugo stands confidently among the group of excited kindergarten children, beaming as he declares, "Let's do our best together to take care of the kindergarten kids." His enthusiasm is matched by a child's eager response, "Me too!" Meanwhile, Marcos looks completely out of his depth, glancing nervously as he tries to grasp the situation. "Eh? This is what the job is about this time?" he mutters, clearly expecting something far more grandiose. Yugo stands confidently among the group of excited kindergarten children, beaming as he declares, "Let's do our best together to take care of the kindergarten kids." His enthusiasm is matched by a child's eager response, "Me too!" Meanwhile, Marcos looks completely out of his depth, glancing nervously as he tries to grasp the situation. "Eh? This is what the job is about this time?" he mutters, clearly expecting something far more grandiose. In the next scene, Marcos's expression tightens in disbelief. "From what you said," he begins, trailing off as frustration mounts. His inner thoughts betray his confusion. "I expected something like hunting Magai beasts or exploring a dangerous zone." But Yugo, quick to dismiss any concerns, confidently reassures him, "There's no way I'm going to take Phi to such dangerous jobs." Nearby, Melt chimes in with a deadpan expression, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Apparently, it's for the sake of interacting with the local residents. Very school-like, right?" The chaos of the moment builds as Marcos grips his head, frustration bubbling over. "How did things end up like this?" he groans, while Yugo, ever calm, waves it off. "Well then, Yugo says with a mischievous grin. The winner will be whoever the kids like more. Marcos freezes, his eyes wide in shock. What? As the group adjusts to their unusual task, Melt sighs, clearly unimpressed. I'll leave that side to you, Yugo teases, fully aware of Marcos's discomfort. Melt's blank expression belies her quiet resignation as she mutters, Why is a proud noble like myself doing something like... And just as things seem to settle, Marcos gets smacked on the head by a playful child's energetic, Hiya! His face contorts in shock, stumbling back dramatically as he gasps, Blair! This comedic moment brings a smile to Yugo's face, while Melt shakes her head in quiet amusement. The scene starts with a stern yet determined Melt scolding Marcos. Geez, don't slack off, she chides, her fiery expression commanding attention. Marcos, caught mid-cough, looks taken aback as Melt points out his lack of effort. If you took the quest, then finish it properly, she continues, her words cutting through his excuses. Her sharp tone contrasts with her practical advice, showing her leadership in the moment. Marcos, still processing her words, can't help but mutter in disbelief, What the heck are you doing? His confusion is met with Melt's swift rebuttal. Look, you need to befriend the kids, she declares, her conviction leaving little room for argument. The panel then shifts to a group of children eagerly surrounding Melt and Marcos, adding to the weight of her statement. Otherwise, you'll end up losing to Yugo, Melt teases, a mischievous smirk playing on her lips, knowing full well how to push Marcos's buttons. The focus shifts to Yugo, who effortlessly captivates the children. He instructs them with an enthusiastic smile, Move your arms like this, and then stop here. His animated movements and cheerful demeanor immediately win the kids over. All right, everyone, take a close look, he encourages, his tone light but engaging. The children watch intently, their faces lighting up with awe. And then, Henshin, Yugo declares, executing a dramatic pose that leaves the kids cheering with excitement. Their joyous cries of, Woo, cool, and How did you do that? Show it again, echo through the room, highlighting the stark difference between his approach and Marcos's. Marcos, observing the scene from a distance, clenches his fist in frustration. Damn that! He grumbles under his breath, visibly annoyed at Yugo's success. However, he quickly composes himself, his posture straightening as he adjusts his tie. I am the son of the proud Bolg family Marcos Bolg, he reminds himself, his internal monologue dripping with self-importance. Out loud, he commands, Calm down, as he prepares to reclaim his dignity. The panel starts with Marcos, his face resolute as he declares, Regardless of what kind of job it is, I will complete it perfectly. His determination shines through as he mentally resolves to treat the task seriously, knowing this is a match with Yugo. His internal monologue reflects his sense of duty. Since I have accepted the quest, I have the duty of finishing it. In the next scene, Yugo, with a casual grin, calls out, Hey Marcos, come here for a second. Marcos, visibly annoyed, retorts, Don't be overfamiliar with me, as he stomps toward Yugo, his aristocratic pride slightly bruised. Yugo, unbothered, continues with a mischievous smirk. The kids said they want to see your magic tool. The panel captures Marcos's skeptical glance as Yugo casually urges him on, adding to the humorous tension between them. Marcos's flustered response, And why should I? My Giga Scissors aren't a toy, echoes loudly, his face indignant. Yugo counters smoothly, I know that, before pointing toward the group of eagerly smiling children. But look, he adds, his grin widening, everyone's smiling and excited for it, right? Marcos's eyes shift reluctantly to the kids, their beaming faces lighting up the panel. Marcos sighs deeply, visibly torn. His aristocratic demeanor falters for a moment, caught between maintaining his pride and entertaining the kids. The bottom panel shows his exasperation as he adjusts his gloves, muttering under his breath, Ugh. The scene humorously highlights Marcos's internal conflict as he begrudgingly considers Yugo's suggestion. From the right side, Marcos Bolg dramatically flourishes the Giga Scissors, a golden and elaborately designed magical tool with a confident smirk. He declares, "Behold the golden brilliance of the Giga Scissors," emphasizing its noble legacy as a treasure of the Bolg family. Sparkling lines accentuate the tool's grandeur as the kids surrounding him gaze in awe. Their eyes wide, they exclaim, "Whoa!" and "It's so shiny and cool!" Their excitement reflects genuine amazement, drawing attention to the scissors' shimmering splendor. Marcos revels in their admiration, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. He boasts, "If you can see the elegance of my Giga Scissors, you all have quite the discerning eye." His laughter, "Foo-ha-ha-ha," echoes, showing his dramatic flair. The children cheer enthusiastically as one of them chimes, "I'll get some golden origami," while others eagerly shout, "Let's have some fun cutting paper with these scissors." Meanwhile, Yugo observes the scene with a mix of curiosity and surprise. Melt comments, "It seems that he's quite popular. That's surprising." While Yugo agrees, "Really? I think he's pretty good at it." Yugo reflects further while observing Marco. He remarks, "He's different from Rush. His followers went straight to him when he was defeated. That made me realize how much they care for him." The thoughtful gaze hints at a newfound respect for Marco's leadership and relationships. The panel begins with Yugo speaking calmly but with a tone of analysis. He says, "He probably overreacted due to his rivalry with me, but I think that's what he really is like." His expression is neutral, yet there's a sense of understanding behind his words. Below, Marco's voice cuts through, commanding the children's attention. He firmly warns, "Ah, don't touch the scissors. You'll get hurt." His protective instincts reveal a surprising but earnest side to his character. Finally, the panel shifts, focus back to Yugo's internal thoughts. He contemplates, he may have been a bad guy when he first appeared, but later on he started doing gags and becoming more popular. His consideration ends on a note of hopeful speculation. He could become a new ranger. Yugo's insight into Marco's potential shows a deeper understanding of his rival's growth and character. Melt tilts her head, puzzled by Yugo's earlier comments. She asks, "What does that mean? Sometimes you say some pretty difficult stuff." Her curiosity lightens the mood slightly. Yugo, slightly caught off guard, scratches the back of his neck and responds nonchalantly, "Don't worry about it. I'm just talking to myself." His deflection is casual but intentional. The scene transitions to a peaceful outdoor setting. Yugo leans back on a bench, a content smile on his face, and remarks, "Man, spending time with kids is really great, isn't it? Their energy is contagious." His laid-back demeanor mirrors the light-hearted atmosphere. Marco, seated beside him, appears visibly exhausted, slumping slightly. He pants heavily and says, "What kind of stamina do you have? I'm completely worn out." The contrast in their energy levels adds a comedic undertone. Yugo, still relaxed, glances over with a soft smile and points out, "But it doesn't feel bad, does it? Being surrounded by all those smiling kids." His words, though simple, carry a meaningful weight as Marco silently contemplates his surroundings with a subtle expression of agreement. Marcos sits alongside Yugo under the shade of a tree, his expression masking the slight turmoil within. He remarks, almost to himself, he doesn't seem to hate it all that much, as if trying to justify his unexpected participation in the day's events. The corners of his mouth twitch faintly as he adds, "Well, I guess it's not bad to show the children the prestige of the Bolg house." Yugo, seated next to him, shifts slightly, his demeanor growing uncharacteristically serious. "You know," he starts, his tone cautious yet steady, "you're probably going to hate what I'm going to say." Marco straightens, caught off guard by the sudden gravity. "What?" he blurts, unsure of what to expect. Yugo breaks into a faint grin, his words disarming. But you see, I've kinda started to like you. The confession hangs in the air for a beat too long, causing Marcos to jolt, his composure cracking. What? Why are you saying that all of a sudden? Are you making fun of me? He snaps, his cheeks faintly tinged with disbelief and frustration. But Yugo shakes his head, calm and sincere. No, that's not it, he assures, leaning back with an easy air. His gaze softens, turning reflective. You said you could beat me 'cause I didn't have Gallandil, right? When you picked a fight with me. A brief pause lingers between them, heavy with the weight of unspoken thoughts, before Yugo continues. Thinking back about it now, I see just how ridiculously honest you were. Marcos frowns, his voice sharp as he counters. The guys that challenged me to a duel the other day started to spread false rumors about me cheating after losing. His tone betrays the bitterness of an old wound, yet he keeps his chin held high. Yugo's grin broadens, unshaken by the tension. But you didn't do anything like that, he remarks, his voice light. In fact, you even became more likable. Marcos exhales deeply, his frown deepening as he mutters under his breath. This way of becoming more likable doesn't make me any happier. Yugo, unbothered, leans back against the bench with a casual smirk. A tightened string snaps easily, he says, his tone half serious, half playful. You need more peace of mind and playfulness. He chuckles softly, adding, though I'm just using someone else's quote. Yugo watches him for a moment, before concluding, his tone kind but firm. It's not good to get so worked up. If you do that, then surely your good points will also come out. For the first time in the exchange, Marcos sits in silence, the weight of Yugo's words settling within him as the scene transitions into the calm hum of the playground around them. Marcos repeats the words quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. A tightened string. There's a flicker of realization in his eyes, as though the sentiment had struck a chord. Marco's inner turmoil surfaces as he gazes downward, his thoughts heavy with regret. He admits to himself, that's right, ever since I lost the duel against him, I feel like I've lost track of myself. Not wanting to recognize my own weakness, I acted impulsively during the tunnel incident. The memory of his rash actions flashes vividly in his mind, a bitter reminder of his missteps. Determined to confront his faults, Marcos straightens his posture, his tone filled with resolve. As a magic knight who protects people and as a proud member of the Bolg House, I may have acted in an unacceptable manner. His words reflect the weight of his honor and responsibility, a promise to do better. His thoughts take a lighter turn as he considers what he's learned. Peace of mind and playfulness, he murmurs, a faint realization dawning on him about the balance he's been missing. Yugo, ever the optimist, cuts through the tension with a confident smirk. That's right. A sense of playfulness is important. An uptight person is not able to draw other people. His statement lands like a challenge, a piece of advice coded in his usual carefree demeanor. The panel ends with Yuugo taking center stage, pointing at Marco with an air of finality. Hero condition number 8. Become a person that is loved by children. His declaration rings with both humor and sincerity, a push for Marco to embrace a new kind of strength. Yugo stands confidently, his expression teasing yet genuine as he says, "This is important, so be sure to write it down." Marco, unable to hold back, bursts into a laugh. Ha ha ha, what's with that? He asks, shaking his head at Yugo's audacious attitude. Marco counters with a sly smirk. If I'm a tightened string, then you're a loose string. Yugo, unfazed, chuckles at the remark. In the next scene, the mood changes as someone urgently yells, "Please stop!" Both Marco and Yugo turn their heads toward the commotion, their light-hearted banter interrupted. Yugo asks, "Hey, what's going on?" hinting at the shift in atmosphere. The atmosphere grows tense as a sharp voice cuts through the scene. A concerned woman, holding back her fear, asks, "What are you going to do to the children?" Her protective stance highlights her determination despite the looming danger. With a trembling yet resolute voice, she declares, "I will call the guards." Her defiant tone echoes, standing as a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty. The eerie figure, shrouded in an unsettling aura, smirks, ignoring the woman's pleas. A sinister chuckle reverberates. "Coo-coo-coo! Coo-coo-coo!" His grotesque visage twists as he speaks with cold certainty. "If it devours the children, it will become more powerful." His words send a shiver through the air, the tension gripping the scene tighter. Amidst this chaos, Marco narrows his eyes, his mind racing. "I think we better detain him as an emergency measure," he suggests, his voice firm with resolve. Yugo, standing beside him, nods in agreement. His expression darkens as he observes the threatening figure, muttering, "He doesn't seem like someone we can leave alone." The figure's transformation begins, grotesque and horrifying, as his body twists and contorts. He unleashes a booming demand that shakes the room. "Give me those delicious brats." His monstrous form looms, emanating an overwhelming aura of malice. Marco and Yugo, standing side by side, stare in shock and disbelief at the terrifying creature before them. Their expressions tighten with unease as the scene grows more sinister. Marco's voice trembles as he mutters, "What is that?" The hulking creature looms over the scene, its monstrous form radiating power as dark energy crackles around it. Its jagged, armored exterior and glowing eyes exude an air of menace, while steam hisses from its body like a living machine ready to strike. The ground beneath trembles with each step it takes, emphasizing its overwhelming presence. Yugo and Marcos stand nearby, their postures tense as they react to the terrifying figure. Yugo appears focused, his expression sharp as if analyzing the situation, while Marcos seems caught between frustration and determination. The creature lets out a low growl, signaling the threat it poses and leaving no doubt that this confrontation will be anything but easy. The monstrous figure stands in the center, its grotesque form trembling with an overwhelming surge of power. With an ecstatic expression, it shouts, "Ah! This power is the best!" Its voice reverberates, dripping with unrestrained delight as energy crackles around its body, distorting the environment further. Marcos and Yugo stare in shock, their expressions betraying a mixture of disbelief and tension. Marcos grits his teeth, fists clenched, while Yugo maintains a sharp, focused gaze, as if trying to strategize against this new threat. The creature raises its voice again, roaring with ambition. "I'm gonna be stronger if I keep raising this." It pauses momentarily, its form swelling with energy, before continuing with a triumphant shout, "I'll become even more powerful." The ground splits further, emphasizing the danger of its growing strength as Yugo and Marcos brace themselves for what's to come. The creature's voice booms menacingly as it declares, "But I need prey for that." Its glowing eyes lock onto the figures ahead, its intent unmistakable. Yugo and Marcos tense up, standing their ground as the monster's power radiates outward. Marcos yells, "Stop! Don't make any weird moves!" as they try to assess the best course of action. The beast's twisted thoughts manifest in a guttural chant. "Brats! Brats! Brats! Brats!" Its sinister obsession with its prey becomes clear, each word escalating in intensity. Suddenly, it lunges forward, its speed and force breaking through the stillness, leaving Yugo with just enough time to shout, "Look out!" His urgency matches the rapid escalation of the threat as danger looms closer. As the creature charges, chaos erupts. A scream pierces the air as Yugo dives to shield a nearby figure, pushing them out of harm's way. The person yells, barely evading the monster's reach. Marcos reacts swiftly, brandishing his weapon. With a determined shout, he calls out, "Giga Scissors!" as his magical tool activates, glowing with energy. The weapon slashes through the air, aiming to halt the monster's advance, but the effort takes its toll. Marco stumbles slightly, his expression strained. Ugh, he mutters, sweat beading on his face from the exertion. As the Giga Scissors clash with the beast's force, Marcos lets out a pained cry. Ugh! The scene captures his struggle, the intense power of the enemy pushing him to his limits. The tension mounts as Marcos and Yuugo react to the crumbling environment around them. Both notice the ominous shift as the monster continues its rampage. Marcos stiffens, realizing the danger. His determined gaze locks onto the distant area where children could be at risk. If this monster gets near the children, it'll be bad, he mutters, his thoughts racing. The monster grins wickedly, a twisted hee-hee escaping its lips, reveling in its malice. Yugo clenches his fist tightly, his inner resolve solidifying. I can't let that happen no matter what, he resolves silently, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. The creature's dark aura intensifies, amplifying the peril they face. Marcos's determination ignites, his focus unwavering. His breathing is heavy, but his resolve burns brightly in his eyes as he mutters, "Ho-oh!" The scene cuts to his preparation, his movements deliberate as he braces for action. Meanwhile, Yugo stands nearby, his expression sharpening as he prepares for his own countermeasure. With a swift movement, Yugo raises his hand to his face, his demeanor calm but intense. His voice cuts through the moment with a firm command. Hen! Shin! Energy surges around him as his transformation begins. The panel erupts with light and power, revealing Yugo in his transformed state, armor shining brilliantly, exuding a heroic presence. The monster sneers as it towers over its opponents, unaffected by the chaos surrounding it. Marcos attacks with all his strength, but the creature barely flinches. Its sinister grin widens as it mocks him. Did you just do something? The mockery cuts deep as Marcos struggles to process the futility of his efforts. The creature raises a massive hand, its movement deliberate and menacing. Here's the payback, it growls, before launching a devastating counterattack. The force behind the strike is immense, leaving the air trembling as Marcos braces for impact, his body reacting instinctively to the danger. Marcos takes the brunt of the blow, stumbling back as he gasps in pain. Gah! Yugo, watching closely, shouts in alarm, Marcos! His transformed state glimmers in the light as he prepares to retaliate. Without hesitation, Yugo charges forward, unleashing a powerful attack. Orya! He yells, his blade striking the monster with precision. The attack connects, but the result is disappointing. Despite the impressive display, the creature remains unfazed. Its towering form looms ominously as it turns its mocking gaze toward Yugo. That didn't hurt him at all. Yugo realizes with growing concern, the tension mounting as their combined strength seems to barely affect the enemy. The monster smirks, its confidence unshaken as it braces for its next move. Yugo leaps into action, his strike aimed directly at the monster. Ha! He exclaims, pouring all his strength into the attack. The blow connects with the beast's armor, creating an explosive impact that sends shockwaves through the air. However, the creature barely reacts, standing firm with its menacing grin intact. As Yugo lands, his expression changes. He mutters, the realization dawning on him that the attack had little to no effect. The scene shifts to show the monster towering over him, unscathed and unfazed, its confidence growing as Yugo struggles to regroup. Yugo winces in pain, his hand trembling. It hurts! He shouts, recoiling from the spikes on the monster's armor. What the heck? Those spikes are a pain in the ass! He exclaims in frustration, struggling to figure out a way to counter this new challenge. The monster laughs mockingly. Fool, it sneers, exuding an aura of superiority. My armor is very strong, it continues, its tone dripping with condescension. Just touching it will harm you. So close combat is... The creature's taunt is abruptly cut off as it recoils. Gah! It exclaims, shocked by an unexpected blow. Yugo rises from his crouched position, his voice calm but resolute. I said it hurts, he mutters, his hand still aching from his earlier blow. The monster chuckles darkly, its condescension palpable. He. Its confidence only fuels Yugo's resolve. You can have one or both of my fists if you want, Yugo says boldly, taking a step forward. His words, steady and full of defiance, echo across the battlefield. It's a cheap price to pay in order to protect the children. He tightens his stance, his determination unwavering despite the overwhelming odds. The creature's mocking grin falters slightly as Yugo adds with a smirk, "But I didn't say I won't hit you." Yugo's fist clenches as he prepares for another strike. The monster growls in frustration, snapping, "You, little—" As it braces itself for Yugo's relentless defiance, Marcos rushes toward Yugo, his voice sharp with urgency. "Hey, Yugo!" he calls, his worry etched on his face. Yugo stands firm, his gaze still locked onto the monster. "You! That was reckless!" Marcos exclaims, his frustration evident as he sizes up their foe. The monster stirs, its movements more erratic. The earlier blow seems to have had some effect, though its full strength remains. Marcos observes carefully, his tone shifting. "But it seems you finally caused some damage." His words carry a hint of relief, though his expression remains cautious. "Though it seems like it's still not enough to bring that monster down," he warns, recognizing the enemy's resilience. Yugo turns to him briefly, his smirk returning. "But I found his weak point," he says confidently, his focus sharp and unwavering. The panel zooms in on his glowing eyes, brimming with determination as he formulates his next move. The tension builds as Yugo and Marcos prepare for the decisive moment. Marcos observes the monster intently, his sharp gaze analyzing its movements. This time, he'll desperately protect his vital areas, he says with certainty. His mind flashes back to Yugo's earlier attack, adding, "But with the last attack, he must have figured it out." Marcos tilts his head slightly, a small smirk forming. "The face, right?" he asks knowingly, already piecing the strategy together. Marcos nods, his voice steady. "I know." The environment shifts focus to the creature, its massive head towering above its body. "From what I see, the head is where the shell's defense is the weakest," Marcos explains, his tone calculated. He then concludes firmly, "If we want to land a fatal blow, that's the place." Marcos narrows his eyes, continuing his analysis. "But once he's alerted about it, he'll do anything to protect his face," he warns, highlighting the monster's potential reactions. The scene shifts to the creature crouching defensively, its hands ready to shield its head. "So how do we break that defense?" Marcos asks, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. His expression turns pensive, but he quickly acknowledges the reality of the situation. "Yugo alone can't break through his strong defense," he mutters. Then, almost begrudgingly, he adds, "Of course, neither can I on my own." The panel shifts back to Marcos, his resolve wavering for a moment. "Helping him doesn't sit well with me, but—" He trails off, leaving the thought unfinished as he steels himself. Turning toward Yugo, he shouts decisively, "Hey, Yugo!" signaling the start of their combined effort. Marcos stands firm, a hint of reluctance in his voice. "I don't like it, but there's no other way than to team up with you here," he says, his pride momentarily set aside for the greater good. A faint smirk crosses his face as he adds confidently, "I have a plan." Yugo tilts his head slightly, his eyes narrowing in focus. "Huh?" he mutters, surprised by the shift in Marcos's tone. Marcos steps forward, his determination shining through. "Lend me a hand," he exclaims, his request carrying both urgency and conviction. The scene shifts to the towering monster, its hardened shell an intimidating barrier. Marcos continues, "If we can land a decisive blow, we can beat it without a problem." His analytical gaze locks onto the creature as he explains, but its movements are completely amateurish. That monster's hard shell offers it a formidable defense. Marcos's words underline the challenge ahead, but his confidence in the plan begins to light the way forward. Marcos lowers his gaze briefly, his voice tinged with frustration. It's frustrating. But I don't think I can land a decisive blow on that monster, he admits. His eyes glimmer with determination as he lifts his head. So I'll leave it up to you. Yugo listens carefully, his stance steady as Marcos continues. In other words, I'm offering to back you up, Marcos declares, his expression firm. So follow my plan. He points decisively, signaling that despite his reluctance, he's fully committed to working together. Yugo reacts with a mix of surprise and respect, acknowledging Marcos's resolve. Marcos, he says, his voice carrying a newfound appreciation for his partner. Both warriors prepare for the fight ahead, unified in purpose as the battle reaches its critical turning point. Marcos glances toward Yuugo, his tone dismissive as he says, Don't misunderstand. It's not like I've acknowledged you. He straightens his posture, adding confidently, As a noble, it's my duty to protect people. For that reason, I'll even team up with my sworn enemy. His words carry an edge of pride, but his commitment is clear. Yugo smirks beneath his mask, his amusement showing. Marcos shouts with urgency, What will you do? Are you on board with my plan or not? His voice rises as he demands an answer, his resolve unwavering. Heh. Yugo chuckles softly, his stance shifting as he prepares to act. I knew it. I'm really starting to like you, he says teasingly, his playful tone cutting through the tension. Marcos snaps back immediately, his face twisting in annoyance. Don't say something so disgusting, he yells, the humor between them momentarily lightening the mood. Yugo tightens his fists, his voice resolute as he declares, There's no other choice. Let's show this monster our strength. The energy around him intensifies, his determination radiating outward. Marcos nods subtly, his stance aligning with Yugo's as they prepare for their coordinated attack. The monster snarls in frustration, its voice booming. For a while, you two have been blabbering on and on. Its patience wears thin as it charges forward, its massive frame barreling toward them. Don't get in my way! The creature roars, its sheer power shaking the ground as the confrontation reaches its climax. Yugo and Marcos stand firm, ready to face the overwhelming force head-on. Marcos charges in with precision, his shield slamming into the monster with a loud, Ha! The impact briefly staggers the creature, its body recoiling from the force. Marcos's eyes flash with focus as he keeps the monster distracted, knowing this is their opening. The monster growls in pain, its voice erupting in frustration. Ooh! As it struggles to recover. Marcos doesn't waste a moment, turning his head sharply and shouting, Now! You go! His voice carries urgency and determination, setting the stage for Yugo to deliver the finishing strike. Yugo leaps into action, his silhouette a blur as he moves with lightning speed. The scene heightens the tension as Marcos holds the line, trusting Yugo to execute the decisive blow. Yugo launches himself high into the air, his voice ringing out as he declares, Blaster! The monster looks up in shock, barely able to process what's happening. Wah! It mutters, its defense faltering under the sudden assault. With unrelenting force, Yugo descends, landing a devastating kick squarely onto the monster's head. Kick! He shouts, his attack striking true. The impact reverberates through the air as the monster cries out in pain. Oh! The sheer power of the blow shakes the battlefield, the monster's form collapsing under Yugo's unyielding strength. The tide of the battle finally begins to shift in their favor. The monster roars in pain, ooh! As Yugo's relentless attack lands. However, it quickly retaliates, swinging its massive arm with incredible force, sending Yugo flying back. Ooh! Yugo grunts as he hits the ground, his stance momentarily faltering. The monster steadies itself, a menacing grin spreading across its face. Ha 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 ha! Your attacks are useless, it taunts, its confidence unshaken by the damage. Raising its arms, the creature bellows, "You'll never take me down!" The towering figure looms large, mocking their efforts as the battle continues. Yugo shouts, "Let's go, Marcos!" as the two prepare for another coordinated strike. Marcos nods, determination in his eyes. The monster, distracted by their movements, growls, "You let your guard down!" as it tries to react. Marcos, ready to support Yugo, calls out, "Don't fail this time, Yugo." His voice is steady and full of confidence. Yugo responds with a sharp, "Yeah!" his resolve unshaken. The monster's eyes widen as it realizes the truth. "That attack was a feint?" It growls in shock, its body tensing as the real strike is revealed. "Then the real one is," the creature mutters, desperately trying to anticipate their next move. The tension builds as their strategy unfolds. Yugo and Marcos coordinate seamlessly as Marcos yells, "Jump!" Yugo takes to the air, propelled by Marcos's shield in a perfectly timed maneuver. Yugo shouts, "Scissors smash!" as he charges downward with force, his movements precise and deadly. The impact of the attack reverberates through the battlefield, the monster reeling as the ground shakes beneath it. Yugo, mid-air, declares with a fierce determination, "I'm gonna yell the name of the technique again," as he prepares for another strike, ensuring no momentum is lost in their combined effort. Yugo unleashes his ultimate move, crying out, "Rising Blaster Kick," as he descends with explosive power. His attack lands squarely on the monster's head, the impact cracking through its shell with a devastating force. The monster screams in agony, "Gwa!" as the power of Yugo's attack overwhelms it. Its armor fractures under the pressure, the resounding crack signaling the tide turning in their favor. Yugo stands tall, his determination evident as the monster falters, the intensity of their battle reaching its peak. Yugo, with confidence, asks, "How's that? Did you see it?" The question is both triumphant and teasing as he stands ready after their coordinated move. Marcos steps forward, his expression firm yet proud, and declares, "This is our playful heart." Behind them, a massive explosion ignites, a vivid display of the force and success of their combined attack. Their teamwork is emphasized as they stand together, unshaken amidst the chaos. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our next exciting recap. New videos will be dropped, so stay tuned.